Lu Fan and the rest of the group stand together, exchanging thoughts on their newly acquired powers. Jian Ying, always eager, raises her hand first. She proudly announces that she chose the Sword Dancer class because it inherits the Sword Master skill. Clearly, twirling swords in style was too good to pass up. Then turning to Xin Chu with a curious glance, Jian Ying mentions that she thought Qin would lean more toward a support role. At this, Qin Chu chuckles and explains that she had considered it, but with Xiao Fei handling healing, there's no point in her tiny, "I'll patch you up with this band-aid" healing skills. So instead, she switched to a damage-dealing role, choosing the hidden combat class, Holy Light Judge. Her light attribute magic attack is now leagues stronger than before. Lu Fan can't help but smile at this, pointing out that now their team has plenty of physical, magical, and support abilities, making them a well-rounded force to be reckoned with. It's like a buffet of powers, something for everyone. Just then, Tao Xiaoman bursts onto the scene, practically glowing with excitement. She raises her hand with immense joy, clearly ready to announce something big. Qin Chu, curious, asks what's got her so worked up. Tao Xiaoman, practically bouncing, asks them to guess which class she changed to. Jian Ying, eyes widening in realization, blurts out if it is that hidden class from the second-level change. Tao Xiaoman, grinning from ear to ear, proudly confirms, yes, that's right. Hearing this, both Jian Ying and Qin Chu are visibly surprised. Tao Xiaoman, not one to miss a dramatic moment, swiftly pulls out her sword and announces with pride that she's chosen the Water Ripple Swordsman class. She can now control water element magic, marking her as part of the Magic Swordsman group. Lu Fan, intrigued, asks if hidden classes really can appear during the second-level change. Jian Ying, ever the encyclopedia of knowledge, nods and explains that while it's possible, the probability is very low, like finding a needle in a haystack, but the needle's invisible and you're wearing oven mitts. It's even lower than the chances of obtaining a hidden class at the first-level change. Tao Xiaoman turns to Jian Ying, smiling, and admits that she knows she's always been of average talent, but being with the team, she finally feels more balanced. Lu Fan, in his usual teasing manner, suddenly remarks that it's amusing how Tao Xiaoman, once the team's slacking weakling, has somehow landed a unique water-something swordsman class. Tao Xiaoman's face turns red with fury. She's so livid that it looks like she's ready to throttle him on the spot. Yelling at him with pure frustration, she clenches her fists, practically vibrating with anger. If looks could kill, Lu Fan would need a respawn. But before the situation can escalate into a full-on murder attempt, Lu Fan's phone buzzes. It's a call from the Vice Principal Zhao. Lu Fan answers, and his expression shifts from playful to serious in an instant. The Vice Principal Zhao informs him that the Envoy is coming. Lu Fan tells the Vice Principal that you will head over immediately. Tao Xiaoman, still fuming, is left standing there mid-yell. It's hard to stay mad when the universe interrupts your revenge plans. Later, at the Combat Class Hall in Dragon Capital Academy, students are seated along with Lu Fan and the lady teacher, their attention focused on the auditorium stage. Teacher Gu leans over and informs Lu Fan that the Envoy's name is Ruan Changfeng, and he is a level 76 powerhouse, a 3-tier Holy Shield Knight. She also reminds him that Vice Principal mentioned the Envoy has some opinions about him, the kind that make you wish you could suddenly blend into the wallpaper. Lu Fan recalls his senior sister's warning that the Envoy might target him. He's left wondering who this Ruan Changfeng really is when suddenly his eyes dart to the stage. There 3 individuals stand, and one of them, draped in a white robe, catches his attention. What really surprises Lu Fan, though, is the sight of the Brahma Staff, the legendary item that once ranked #1 in the treasure book of the auction house, before the Dragon A came into play. And now, this famous item is casually held by the hooded figure on stage, as if walking around with priceless treasures is just another Tuesday for this guy. Curiosity piqued, Lu Fan turns to Teacher Gu and asks about the identity of this mystery person. With a calm smile, the teacher reveals that the figure in the white robe is none other than the new principal of Dragon Capital Academy, who has held the position for the past 2 years. Guess they don't give that fancy robe to just anyone. To top it off, Teacher Gu whispers that the principal is rumored to be an expert above the 4th tier, the kind of person who could probably blow out candles from the next continent over. Lu Fan, still curious, wanted to know if anyone had any information about the principal's abilities. However, Teacher Gu replied with a shrug, explaining that apart from Vice Principal, no one really knows. The principal never attends events, their voice is magically altered, and to top it off, no one even knows their gender. It's like trying to get to know a ghost with a really impressive wardrobe. Lu Fan ponders the significance of the Envoy's visit, quickly realizing that if the elusive principal is showing up, this Envoy must be a pretty big deal. Just as Lu Fan puts 2 and 2 together, someone in the hall shouts that the Envoy has arrived. Both he and Teacher Gu turned to see Ruan Changfeng stride into the room, radiating the kind of authority that immediately demands attention. It's the kind of presence that makes people instinctively check if their shoes are clean. Wasting no time, Ruan Changfeng commands everyone to cut to the chase. He isn't here for small talk or pleasantries. When Vice Principal politely steps forward to introduce himself, the envoy waves him off like he's brushing aside an overly eager intern. Ruan Changfeng makes it clear that the only person in the room who matters is the principal. Everyone else is completely irrelevant, like extras in a drama who aren't even getting paid. He bluntly tells the Vice Principal Zhao that Zhao doesn't have the authority to decide on national trial candidates and shouldn't waste his time. It's one of those I run the show moments that makes you wonder why anyone else even showed up with snacks. Growing impatient, Ruan Changfeng asks if all the candidates have arrived. The hooded principal gives a simple nod. The Vice Principal Zhao, doing his best to keep the tension down, informs the envoy that Dragon Capital Academy has only recommended one candidate, the one and only Lu Fan. The envoy's expression tightens in clear annoyance. Teacher Gu leans toward Lu Fan and quietly explains that the Vice Principal Zhao knew the envoy wanted to choose the candidate himself, but to prevent that, the Academy nominated only Lu Fan. It's a bold move, the kind that says, take it or leave it. With only one option before him, the envoy is clearly displeased. Lu Fan studies Ruan Changfeng closely, realizing that this old man isn't just any figure. His very presence suggests a person who survived countless life and death battles. Even Teacher Gu senses the tension, but despite this, both the principal and Vice Principal Zhao remain firm, fully prepared to risk displeasing the envoy to push Lu Fan forward. Ruan Changfeng turns his gaze toward Lu Fan, unimpressed, and bluntly states that it seems the choice has already been made, making his opinion irrelevant. But the Vice Principal Zhao doesn't back down. He corrects the envoy, asserting that if he thinks Dragon Capital Academy is unprepared, he's overestimating the situation. The Academy has full confidence in Lu Fan, and the principal firmly believes that Lu Fan will certainly impress the envoy. It's a diplomatic way of saying you might want to hold off on the eye rolls until after the show. Ruan Changfeng, still clearly displeased, finds it hard to believe what the Vice Principal Zhao is saying. Yet, begrudgingly, he skims through the file handed to him, taking note that Lu Fan is indeed a standout student. A level 32 Dragon Knight, Lu Fan is the reigning champion of the Southern Province and ranks #1 among new students. Tales of his heroism resonate from Shanghai City to Dragon Capital, even reaching the Qin family and the Northern Duke. Not exactly the kind of resume you can just toss aside like a bad flyer. However, the envoy remains skeptical. In his eyes, Lu Fan's journey has been too smooth thanks to his hidden profession. He doubts that Lu Fan truly understands the struggles the other candidates have faced. With a smirk, he questions whether Lu Fan can really hold his own against third-tier experts from other countries, many of whom are at level 50 or 60. It's the kind of smirk that says, nice story, kid, but can you actually back it up? Lu Fan immediately senses the bad vibes. Something about the old man's demeanor feels off, like he's already made up his mind about Lu Fan, and it's not favorable. The sneering expression on Ruan Changfeng's face only confirms it. Without warning, the envoy draws his long sword and lunges at Lu Fan, deciding that if Dragon Capital Academy has so much faith in him, he'll be the one to assess Lu Fan himself, because apparently nothing says assessment like an unprovoked sword swing. Lu Fan, fast on his feet, blocks the sudden strike with his big black mashie, his instincts kicking in just in time. Apparently, the envoy's version of a chat involves a sword to the face. Everyone in the hall watches in disbelief as the envoy attacks Lu Fan, and they immediately protest. They point out that it's blatantly unfair for a level 76 envoy to pick a fight with a level 32 student. It's like sending a heavyweight boxer into a pill fight, clearly biased. But the old man, being the scumbag he is, simply shrugs it off and tells them that if Lu Fan doesn't want to fight, he can withdraw from the national trial altogether. His level, according to the envoy, has nothing to do with it. Like trying to crush an ant with a hammer is totally fair game. Lu Fan finds himself in a tight spot. The envoy smirks, explaining that his job is to select individuals strong enough to compete with other nations. If Lu Fan can't pass his tests, then he's not worthy of representing the Dragon Kingdom. Lu Fan realizes that engaging in close combat with someone on the envoy's level is a losing battle, but the limited space prevents him from summoning his dragon ladies. Doing so could harm everyone else around, and let's be honest, no one likes collateral damage at a school event. Sensing Lu Fan's hesitation, the old man grows even cockier, demanding that Lu Fan show his full strength. His mocking tone makes it clear that he expects Lu Fan to fail. Lu Fan braces himself, expecting another attack, and just then the envoy delivers a crushing blow, one so powerful that it knocks the big black mashie from Lu Fan's hands. Lu Fan is on the brink of taking a brutal hit when, out of nowhere, the principal steps in, wielding the Brahma staff. With an altered voice, the principal casually tells the envoy that he seems quite enthusiastic, so perhaps they should relocate for the assessment, because apparently destroying students inside an auditorium is frowned upon. Suddenly, a crimson-red magic circle appears beneath their feet, and in the blink of an eye, the principal, vice principal Zhao, Lu Fan, and the old man are all teleported away. Meanwhile, the remaining students in the auditorium are left slack-jawed, watching as all four vanish without a trace. One moment they're witnessing a brawl, and the next, it's like a magic trick gone too far. The scene shifts to an outdoor arena where there's plenty of space for Lu Fan and the envoy to go all out. The old man, a bit surprised by the sudden change of scenery, quickly shrugs it off, claiming it doesn't matter where they are. What matters to him is seeing Lu Fan's true strength. Finally, in the midst of the envoy's madness, Lu Fan realizes exactly who he's dealing with. This old man was the official who allowed the bratty princess to run wild. No wonder the entire assessment had felt off from the beginning. It's like realizing the referee at your match is also the one who lets the star player throw tantrums. Now with enough space to unleash his full strength, Lu Fan wastes no time. He uses Flash Leap, teleporting to the head of his legendary Black Dragon, who's already transformed into her World Destroyer form. Even the envoy, smug as he was, recognizes this dragon. It's the same one despised by the bratty princess, the very one seen in that infamous video from a while back. The envoy, not one to back down, immediately materializes his golden shield, confident that no matter how impressive Lu Fan's dragon might be, a so-called newbie is no match for a level 76 Holy Shield Knight. In his mind, it's like bringing a tank to a water balloon fight. He's ready to dismiss Lu Fan as another overhyped rookie. But Lu Fan, never one to be underestimated, is more than ready to turn the smug old man into a holy shielded pancake. He doesn't back down and makes it clear to the envoy that he better pay close attention to what's about to happen. His legendary World Destroyer dragon, Xiao Ye, roars with all her might, her presence radiating power as she prepares to unleash absolute chaos. It's the kind of roar that practically screams, "I didn't come here to play, old man." Xiao Ye's thunderous roar sends chills down the spines of everyone nearby. The sheer intensity of her presence is so overwhelming that it freezes those around her in place. It's the kind of roar that doesn't just demand respect, it demands immediate reevaluation of every life choice up to this moment. The raw power in the air is palpable, and even the most seasoned fighters feel their knees wobble. It's as though the dragon, without uttering a word, commands the battlefield. In the midst of this overwhelming chaos stands the envoy, his bravado beginning to crack under the dragon's immense power. His body trembles under the weight of it, his face contorting between pain and sheer effort to stay composed. Yet through all this, he forces a confident smirk onto his face, because nothing screams, "I'm fine," like gritting your teeth while your legs are threatening to give out. Scoffing, he dismisses Xiao Ye's display as nothing more than a cheap scare tactic, convinced that this dragon is just for show. In his eyes, Lu Fan's ace card isn't strong enough to pose any real threat. From a distance, Vice Principal Zhao and the mysterious Road Principal watch the unfolding battle with sharp attention. The Vice Principal can't help but recall the last time he saw this Black Dragon's power, the very same move that had once demolished the Fengyun Pavilion, leaving a mark on all who witnessed it. His gaze is full of concern, knowing just how serious things are getting. Meanwhile, the Road figure shakes his head lightly, a small gesture that suggests the real spectacle has yet to begin. It's the calm before the storm, the kind of look that says, "You see nothing yet." Still brimming with arrogance, the envoy continues to smirk at Xiao Ye, utterly convinced that the dragon's display is just a flashy trick designed to scare off lesser opponents. In his mind, this is all for show, like fireworks at a festival. Little does he know, the real challenge is just beginning, and he's in for a much bigger surprise than he ever expected. Because there's one thing worse than facing a dragon, underestimating one. Suddenly, an unexpected attack barrels toward the envoy. Instinctively, he raises his shield, glowing with a powerful emblem, ready to block the strike. But as he does, a wave of fear crashes over him, something he has never felt before. For a shield knight known for unbreakable resolve, this sensation catches him completely off guard. He trembles, surrounded by symbols of fear, and before he knows it, he's on his knees, overwhelmed by bursts of energy. Nearby, Lu Fan stands calmly beside his towering black dragon, Xiao Ye, a mocking smile tugging at his lips as he observes the envoy's weakened state. It's the kind of look that says, "Didn't see that coming, did you?" Despite the fear gripping him, the envoy takes a deep breath, forcing himself to regain composure. He activates his special stance, nullifying the fear, and grips his weapon tightly with renewed determination. Now, with his aura blazing with defiance, he charges forward, sword raised, fully intent on overpowering his opponent. But Lu Fan doesn't even flinch. The energy around him seems to bend to his will, as if responding to his command. It's like the battlefield itself is choosing sides, and it's not looking good for the Envoy. Vice Principal Zhao gasps, his eyes wide with disbelief as he witnesses the sheer control Lu Fan holds over the chaotic forces around him. Two portals suddenly open, and the Envoy, drenched in sweat, stares in horror and amazement. He wonders what is Lu Fan summoning now, fearing something even more powerful might emerge. Lu Fan, with a playful smile, watches as two more dragons step out from the portals, joining the Black Dragon. The Envoy stares, utterly dumbfounded as he tries to process the impossible sight before him. 3 dragons. It's as if his disbelief is trying to keep up with the sheer spectacle, but it's failing miserably. The Vice Principal is equally stunned, his mind struggling to wrap around the reality of the situation. It's like watching someone casually pull an ace out of their sleeve, except this ace has scales, claws, and probably breathes fire. But Lu Fan isn't done. With a calm demeanor, as if summoning dragons were just another day at the office, he commands the Emerald Dragon, Xiaofi, to summon her own 2 dragon pets. Now, a total of 5 massive dragons stand surrounding him. The Vice Principal, absolutely speechless, can only stare in awe. 5 dragons? Is this even legal? Even the mysteriously robed principal, who up until now had maintained an air of calm detachment, is visibly rattled by the sheer magnitude of Lu Fan's power. No one had anticipated that this level of mastery was even possible. Standing tall among his 5 dragons, Lu Fan radiates unshakable confidence. His control over these enormous beasts is undeniable, their strength directly tied to him, making them just as formidable as Lu Fan himself. The Envoy, now completely overwhelmed and visibly shaken, stares wide-eyed at the dragons. His bravado crumbles, leaving nothing but raw fear in its place. The twin souls of the Flying Dragon Kings, now at level 22, loom menacingly. Fire, ice, thunder, and wind swirl violently around the dragons, the elements gathering with a terrifying force. It's the kind of moment that makes you wonder if the Envoy is mentally replaying every single bad decision he's made up to this point. Meanwhile, the Vice Principal, still in utter disbelief, glances at the Principal and asks if he knew Lu Fan could summon a literal dragon army. The Principal, equally stunned, shakes his head, completely at a loss for words. He watches in shock as Lu Fan calmly unleashes his 5 massive dragons with a confidence that leaves the entire room breathless. It's not every day you see someone pull off a dragon squad like it's no big deal. The Envoy stands firm, though his face betrays a mix of determination and creeping anxiety. Shield raised, he braces himself, fully aware that he's about to face an overwhelming force. 5 dragons weren't exactly in his daily combat routine. Still, he holds his ground, gripping his sword with all the resolve he can muster, determined to prove his strength, even if his opponent happens to be a so-called rookie. The Envoy struggles to comprehend the situation. His eyes widen, disbelief etched across his face as fear begins to creep in. Things have escalated far beyond what he had anticipated. It's like signing up for a sparring match and realizing halfway through you're actually in a full-blown dragon brawl. Panic and frustration battle inside him as he questions how someone so young could outmatch him so effortlessly. Surrounded by flames and shadows, he desperately summons his defensive shield, hoping it will be enough to hold off the impending storm of power. Meanwhile, Vice Principal Zhao steps forward, watching the battlefield with a calm but alert expression. He is prepared to step in if things spiral too far out of control. His face says cool and collected, but inside he's probably calculating the dragon damage to the Academy's insurance. Amidst the destruction, the Envoy suddenly lets out a wild laugh, seemingly unfazed by the chaos. It's the kind of laugh that makes you wonder if he's finally lost his grip or just refusing to accept reality. Perched atop his fierce bat, he continues to deflect attacks with his shimmering shield, as their sheer defiance alone will keep him standing against Lu Fan's unstoppable dragon force. The Envoy charges forward, his shield glowing brightly, a defiant beacon in the chaos. Lu Fan, with a slight smile, acknowledges the Envoy's quick thinking and skill in maneuvering his mount. The Envoy surges ahead in a dynamic move, eyes sharp and shield raised high, full of taunts as he sneers that without his dragons, Lu Fan is nothing. It's the kind of overconfidence that makes you wonder if he's been reading too much of his own fan mail. Despite all the bravado, the Envoy knows his holy light protection is on the verge of fading, with only seconds remaining. Determined to make the most of it, he charges forward, his mind racing, trying to plan his next move before his protection fades. Lu Fan, however, remains calm, dismissing the Envoy's taunts with a mere glance, his eyes cutting through the chaos like a blade. As the Envoy barrels through the sky on his bat mount, he continues to criticize, pointing out flaws in Lu Fan's strategy, as if his lecture might do more damage than his sword. It's almost like he's hoping to win the battle through sheer constructive criticism. With just 2 seconds left on his shield, the Envoy summons every ounce of strength into one final decisive attack. His weapon glows with radiant light as he invokes Holy Light Judgment, a powerful strike meant to turn the tide of the battle. The battlefield lights up, radiant with the energy of his holy attack as he swings with all his might, aiming straight for Lu Fan. The move is loaded with immense power, and the confidence in the Envoy's eyes suggests he's banking on this as his game-changer. But Lu Fan remains completely unfazed, his expression calm, almost bored. Each layer of his Emerald Light Shield, summoned by his Emerald Dragon, stands more than capable of withstanding multiple strikes. It's as if Lu Fan is politely waiting for the Envoy's tantrum to end so they can get back to more serious matters. Riding atop his bat, the Envoy weighs his options, realizing that while Holy Light Judgment might partially break through Lu Fan's defenses, dealing with the dragons is an entirely different beast altogether. Meanwhile, Lu Fan channels the mighty Blue Dragon King's roar, and a towering spectral dragon crackling with energy appears, swirling around him. The Envoy seems to falter and retreat. Lu Fan delivers a final warning, remarking that he won't hesitate to treat the Envoy like the rookie he's acting like. Suddenly, the Star Dragon appears behind the Envoy with such speed and precision that it leaves him completely stunned. His expression shifts from arrogance to pure shock as the full weight of the danger he's in hits him. It's the kind of realization that says, maybe I bit off a little more than I can chew. With a fierce gaze, Lu Fan closes in, ready to end the battle. The Blue Dragon King roars, sending purple lightning crashing down on the Envoy. Knocked from his mount, the Envoy hits the ground hard, his once confident posture reduced to desperation. Lu Fan approaches him. A mocking smile plays across his lips, reminding the Envoy of how cornered and helpless he's become. The Envoy, now fully aware of his impending defeat, commands Lu Fan to stop. But even in the face of certain loss, his stubbornness knows no bounds. However, Lu Fan remains resolute. This fight, started by the Envoy's arrogance, will be finished by Lu Fan's hand. The entire arena fills with dust and smoke as the final clash unfolds. Vice Principal Zhao and the robed figure observe from a distance, their expressions tight with anticipation. After what feels like an eternity, the smoke clears, revealing Ruan Changfeng lying on the ground, coughing intensely, his body weakened from the overwhelming attack. His bat mount lies lifeless beside him, the once fierce creature now just another casualty of the Envoy's overconfidence. It's clear now that all that swagger led to one very bad day. Yet despite this crushing blow, the Envoy still refuses to give up. With visible effort, Ruan Changfeng tries to rise once again, his body trembling under the shockwaves of exhaustion and damage. Lu Fan watches him calmly, almost amused, and comments that he's sorry for killing his mount. Of course, his apology comes with a sly reminder that in the ruthless competition of the national trials, taking out an opponent's mount is perfectly within the rules. Lu Fan adds that he's sure the Envoy put a lot of effort into seeing how he handled the situation. The Vice Principal, watching this unfold, is both surprised and impressed that Ruan Changfeng hasn't given up yet, even though it's clear he's outmatched. The Envoy, despite his defeat, continues to challenge Lu Fan, unwilling to back down. The Vice Principal, sensing enough has been done, steps forward and remarks that the evaluation should be over, and that Lu Fan has clearly proven himself qualified. But this only makes the Envoy furious. He snaps back at the Vice Principal, telling him to keep quiet, as it's not his place to decide when the evaluation is over. The kind of frustration that comes from someone who thought they were in control, until reality hit like a freight train. The Envoy insists it's his job to make the final decision, warning the Vice Principal not to interfere with his work. Apparently, even lying on the ground with a dead mount nearby, his authority is something he refuses to surrender. The Vice Principal is stunned by the Envoy's stubbornness. He silently wonders how Ruan Changfeng, even in this state, still refuses to concede. It's clear there's some deeper animosity here, something more personal than just an evaluation. Meanwhile, the principal, observing the situation, simply says that they should let it go. He can see that Ruan Changfeng is running on fumes and won't be able to hold out much longer. The principal muses the man's pride is fighting a losing battle with his body. Still sitting on the ground, Ruan Changfeng seethes internally. He realizes that anyone with Lu Fan's abilities, flash damage immunity, dragon tongue magic, and control over 5 dragons, would make a perfect contender for the national trials. But admitting that would be like swallowing a bag of nails. Instead, his rage bubbles over, and he mutters to himself that he will never let Lu Fan reach that stage. Fueled by anger, Ruan Changfeng makes one last desperate attempt to attack. He rises and lunges at Lu Fan, shouting that he won't allow him to become a contender. And then, in a fit of frustration, he hurls an insult that only adds to the drama, accusing Lu Fan, the smelly, poor fool from a dumpling shop, of being the reason for his downfall. Lu Fan, calm as ever, stands with one hand resting on his dragon, barely acknowledging the Envoy's outburst as Ruan charges at him. With ease, Lu Fan dodges the Envoy's attack, leaping out of the way. Ruin Changfeng continues his tirade, blaming Lu Fan for everything, being abandoned by the Jin family, losing his position with the higher-ups, and now having his career utterly ruined. To make matters worse, Lu Fan even killed his prized mount. It's a bad day when your biggest complaint is a dead bat, Lu Fan might be thinking, but he says nothing. Fuming, Ruin Changfeng draws his sword, his eyes burning with fury. He declares that he will not leave Lu Fan alive today, promising that this is the day Lu Fan will die. It's the kind of declaration you'd expect from someone who's already lost the fight, but refuses to accept it. Yet despite all the rage, the outcome seems inevitable as Lu Fan remains calm, standing tall against the Envoy's final desperate attack. Just then, Lu Fan delivers a swift, powerful kick, sending Ruin Changfeng flying across the battlefield. He crashes onto the ground, dazed and in pain, while Lu Fan calmly walks toward him, each step deliberate. It's the kind of walk that says, "We both know how this is going to end." Lu Fan approaches the fallen Envoy and calmly tells him that losing one's wisdom in battle is pointless. It's almost as if he's delivering a lecture while standing over his defeated opponent, an unexpected moment of honor in the middle of the chaos. Lu Fan assures Ruin that he won't strike him while he's already down, his tone measured and controlled. If Ruin truly believes the evaluation isn't over, Lu Fan offers him the chance to rise and continue the fight. A generous offer, considering Ruin looks like he's more suited for a bed than another round. Lu Fan then continues, addressing the deeper issue. If Ruin really thinks his career with the Jin family has been ruined by Lu Fan's actions, then he should know that Lu Fan will always be there, ready for him to take his revenge. It's the kind of statement that says, "I'm not going anywhere, and you're welcome to try again." But Lu Fan adds a final warning, telling the Envoy that next time he won't stop. The message is clear. Mercy might be shown today, but tomorrow is another story. Hearing this, Ruin calms down a bit, perhaps accepting his defeat, if only temporarily. As if on cue, all of Lu Fan's dragons come to stand by his side, towering over the fallen Envoy like silent sentinels. Ruin's condition worsens, and he collapses further, unable to rise. Seeing this, Vice Principal Zhao, who had been watching anxiously, immediately runs over to help. He calls out to Ruin Changfeng, promising to arrange a priest as quickly as possible, recognizing that the Envoy's health is rapidly deteriorating. It's one of those moments where even the audience can feel that things have gone from bad to worse. The principal, still observing from a distance, turns to Lu Fan and with an impressed look remarks on how well he hid his abilities. 5 dragons? That's not exactly something you keep under your hat. He admits he never expected Lu Fan to be capable of such power. Curious, the principal asks just how much of his strength Lu Fan has used in this battle. Lu Fan, a bit surprised by the question, responds humbly, revealing that he hasn't even used 1% of his strength. It's the kind of answer that makes you wonder what chaos would look like at 100%. The dragons, he explains, barely moved, and none of them had to use any skills. Essentially, Lu Fan let his pets stretch their legs, and that was enough to dismantle the entire situation. Just then, the principal's Brahma staff begins to glow, and powerful aura surrounds him. The atmosphere shifts as he speaks, his voice firm yet approving. He acknowledges that selecting Lu Fan was indeed the right decision. It's almost as if the universe itself agrees with him, as the glowing staff makes the moment feel even more monumental. Hearing this, Lu Fan simply nods, turning to leave with quiet confidence. Xiao Ye and Xia Fei, his loyal dragons, come to his side as he begins to walk away. But as he moves, something catches Lu Fan's attention. A strange familiarity tugs at him, and he pauses, thinking to himself that the principal looks oddly familiar. It's one of those moments where you feel like you've seen someone in a dream or maybe a past life. Lu Fan can't shake the feeling that he has known the principal before, though the memory remains just out of reach. Meanwhile, far away in the northern region of Dragon Country, within an unknown area at level 60, Duke Shenbai chuckles as he reviews Lu Fan's file. It's clear to him that this kid is something special. The fact that Lu Fan is now the official representative of Dragon Country? Well, that's just icing on the cake. Shenbai imagines Ruin Changfeng probably signed off on the file with tears in his eyes, grudgingly accepting his defeat. It's not every day you picture a seasoned warrior crying into paperwork. As Zhenbai enjoys his moment, someone knocks on the door, asking to come in. Zhenbai gives the go-ahead, and the man steps in, dutifully asking what orders are needed. Zhenbai, with the smoothness of someone preparing for an epic journey, throws his coat over his shoulder and instructs the man to prepare the griffin. Because why ride a horse when you can ride a giant mythical creature? The young man, looking a bit concerned, raises his hand to ask if Lord Zhenbai really plans on leaving the northern border camp, especially since there have been attacks on their routes recently. The attacks, of course, all seem to be coming from the same side, and if Shenbai leaves, things might get even worse. It's the kind of situation where you're half expecting a disaster movie soundtrack to start playing in the background. Zhenbei, unfazed by the concern, assures the man that he isn't leaving forever and calmly orders him to inform the Griffin team. Because when you've got Griffins on call, you don't sweat the small stuff. He adds that the other routes should continue as usual and that he's heading to Longyu Academy to meet Lu Fan, the new Dragon Country representative. Apparently, meeting the star of the show takes priority over the whole border under attack situation. He promises to be back in 2 days, as if it's a quick trip to the grocery store. Before the young man can leave, Zhenbai asks if he fully understands the instructions. The man nods quickly, confirming that he does. It's clear that when Lord Zhenbai speaks, you don't just listen, you take notes. Meanwhile, Lu Fan sits in his room staring at his system screen with a worried expression. The destination he's been thinking about is over 3,000 kilometers away, and let's be honest, no one's thrilled about a trip that long, not even a hero. The thought of how far it is makes him feel uneasy, knowing it won't be a simple journey. As he scans the system further, he notices that Ruan Chanfeng has approved his national test qualification. While that should bring some relief, Lu Fan can't shake the feeling that something is missing. Realizing there's nothing pressing on his agenda, he considers going out to search for treasure. But again, that 3,000-kilometer distance looms large in his mind. This is definitely more than a casual treasure hunt. This feels like a bring extra snacks kind of adventure. Suddenly, his phone rings, snapping him out of his thoughts. He talks for a moment, considering his options, and eventually says, "Forget it, I'll contact you next time." He's offered help with a wizard for teleportation, though it comes with an extra cost. Lu Fan shrugs, agreeing that of course it's going to be expensive, because who knew fast travel came with surge pricing? Just as Lu Fan is about to hang up, his attention is drawn back to his system, and there's a surprise waiting for him. The system congratulates him with a message. A treasure map has been sent to him today. A smile spreads across Lu Fan's face as he realizes what's just arrived. It's one of those "oh my god, Christmas came early" moments. Finally, after such a long wait, a divine-level treasure map has been received. His excitement bubbles up, but before he can fully process it, the voice on the phone asks if he's still there. Lu Fan responds quickly, saying yes, but he's got more questions now. As he continues his conversation, he remains completely unaware of the giant fireball hurtling toward his house. Because, naturally, why worry about flaming doom when you're caught up in treasure excitement? He casually talks about a far northern region, but the impending disaster doesn't care. The fireball speeds toward Longyu Academy's Villa No. 1, and within moments it hits, causing a massive explosion that rocks the entire area. That's one way to interrupt a phone call. A cloaked figure hovers in the sky, watching with smug satisfaction as Villa No. 1 goes up in a fiery explosion. In his hand, he clutches a mysterious stone, probably thinking he's really nailed it this time. But before he can even start his villainous monologue, the flames are suddenly sliced apart by the claws of the legendary Black Dragon. Lu Fan emerges from the flames, totally unscathed, standing alongside the other villa residents, all completely safe thanks to his dragons. Honestly, when your insurance policy includes dragon protection, there's not much to worry about. Without missing a beat, Lu Fan looks up the cloaked figure, and with his usual flair, tells him to stop right there and don't even try to teleport again. Lu Fan wastes no time. His dragon bares its fangs and charges straight at the figure, knocking back his hood and revealing him as none other than the teacher who had stood with the principal during the Envoy's assessment. With a dramatic flair only Lu Fan can manage, he calls out to a lady on the ground, telling her to call the fire department while the others scramble to ensure everyone is safe because, safety first, even in the middle of a villain showdown. Ken Chu, always quick to the point, announces that the hooded man had ambushed them with the clear intent of wiping them out. But the teacher, now fully committed to his role as the villain, isn't done yet. He sneers at Lu Fan, telling him that now that he's been spotted, there's no choice but to bind him. Apparently, once you're caught mid-evil scheme, the only logical response is to tie up the hero with magic. With a flourish, he casts a blazing binding attack, locking Lu Fan in place and preventing any helpful effects for 10 seconds. It's like the magical version of a timeout, except this one comes with fire. If Lu Fan breaks free, his speed and casting abilities will be slashed by 90% for 4 seconds, a real buzzkill. Meanwhile, the teacher's body begins to bulk up like he's preparing for a superhero movie, except this is more of a villain's last stand. He's using the ultimate blaze skill, which is basically a self-destruct button for those days when you're losing so badly you decide to go out with a bang, literally. The skill burns his own life force to create a detonating core, capable of dealing a scorching 50% of his mental attributes as fire damage. Because if you're going to lose, you might as well do it with enough firepower to make everyone remember. Even Lu Fan, with all his confidence, realizes that the flame core is the wildest, most dangerous trick a fire mage can pull. The old man isn't just trying to win, he's ready to blow everything sky high, including himself. Meanwhile, Qin Chu and Jian Ying spring into action, raising their whatever they have, assuring Lu Fan that they are there to help. However, the system notification chimes in, delivering some bad news. The flame core is charging with every second. Because what's an epic battle without a ticking time bomb? The charge is already at 59%, and the man, now puffing up like a balloon that's gone way past its limit, taunts Lu Fan, saying that there's no escape and that death is inevitable. Nothing says confidence like turning into a fire-filled piñata. As the charge hits 72%, Lu Fan quickly commands the Emerald Dragon to cast Eternal Guardian and protect everyone. The Emerald Dragon, as loyal as ever, immediately casts a protective barrier around the ladies and the legendary Black Dragon. Because even in the face of fiery doom, you've got to protect your squad. But while everyone else is shielded, Lu Fan remains bound by the crimson chains, unable to move. The flame core continues charging, now at a terrifying 96%, and even Lu Fan knows the old man is about to blow any second. He materializes his big black mashi, glaring at the man and calling him crazy, which frankly seems like an understatement for someone about to self-destruct. Just when it looks like everything is about to go up in flames, something unexpected happens. The Brahma staff suddenly pierces through the old man's stomach, interrupting his ultimate blaze skill. Lu Fan's eyes widen in shock as he sees the principal's staff coming in at the last second to save the day. Because when your principal shows up wielding a magic staff, it's less school discipline and more epic rescue. Even the old man, in his desperate attempt to detonate himself, can't quite grasp what's happening as the Brahma staff keeps interrupting his plans. He's visibly frustrated, determined to go out with a literal bang, but the principal's staff intervenes again, delivering a final blow. The old man falls to the ground, his plan crumbling along with him. Because nothing says bad day like trying to self-destruct and failing spectacularly. Lu Fan lands on the ground gracefully just as Teacher Gu comes running toward him. His aunt also rushes over. Tears are streaming down her face. She is clearly terrified that her nephew might have been hurt. It's that typical family moment, dragons and explosions aside, when an aunt's number one concern is making sure you're in one piece. But Lu Fan reassures her, telling her not to worry at all. Qin Chu races over, concern etched on her face, and asks who the hooded mage was. Lu Fan replies that it was the same mage who was present during the Envoy assessment. Vice Principal Zhao, now standing over the burnt remains of the old man, looks genuinely shocked. He admits that he never expected someone to attempt murder in the middle of the academy, especially not an honorary professor who had been at Longyu Academy for so long. It's like finding out Professor McGonagall secretly ran a dark arts club. Even Lu Fan struggles to understand why such a respected figure would resort to this. His aunt, however, is not having any of it. Furious, she demands that Vice Principal Zhao investigate the matter thoroughly, reminding him that her nephew's life was on the line. Qin Chu, equally outraged, can't believe the professor was willing to detonate himself and take Lu Fan with him the moment he realized escape was impossible. It's not every day you face a teacher who'd rather blow himself up than hand in his resignation. Vice Principal Zhao, clearly nervous, tries his best to reassure everyone, asking them to stay calm and take a deep breath. He promises he'll investigate the situation thoroughly and get them some answers. The next morning in the principal's office at Longyu Academy, the mysterious principal sits deep in thought, still shaken by the murder attempt. He knows that while this attack failed, it's only a matter of time before another, even more dangerous, attempt is made. It's like when Voldemort didn't quite get Harry the first time but came back with more dramatic flair later. The trashy professor had been part of the academy for many years, and no one around him had even the slightest suspicion of his dark intentions. The principal reflects on how he had barely managed to teleport in time to save everyone, thinking that if he had been just a second too late, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Because there's no reparo spell from acid explosions. Suddenly, the principal is jolted from his thoughts by a strange voice. A man is asking if the principal is even listening to him. It turns out to be the Duke Shenbei, who has come all the way to Longdu Academy. The Duke, clearly unimpressed with the beverages on offer, jokes that the principal's office needs some serious drinks because the tea is simply bland and tasteless. It's like showing up to Hogwarts and complaining about the lack of butterbeer. Noticing the principal's growing irritation, the Duke quickly changes the subject, laughing and assuring him that he's been listening to every word. Nothing like a bit of tea shade to lighten the mood. He then adds that since they haven't seen each other for so long, he figured the principal might want to know why he's here. Because apparently nothing says urgent business like a casual drop-in and a complaint about tea. The principal snaps back to reality, realizing he's been going on about Lu Fan for far too long. He apologizes to the Duke and then shifts the conversation, asking if the Duke has completed his mission in the far north. The Duke, however, waves off the question, explaining that the mission is still incomplete, because apparently even Dukes have to deal with never-ending tasks. But he quickly adds that with the recent attempt on Lu Fan's life, and with both the principal and vice principal Zhao busy investigating, he's willing to take some of the burden off their shoulders. At first, the principal doesn't quite get what the Duke is implying, so the Duke spells it out for him. He plans to take Lu Fan to the far north, even though Lu Fan seems unfazed by assassination attempts because clearly dodging death is just part of his daily schedule. Trouble seems to follow him around like a particularly clingy shadow. The Duke insists that taking Lu Fan with him will not only ensure his safety before the national trials, but will also keep those around him out of harm's way. Because, let's face it, being near Lu Fan is basically standing in the splash zone of chaos. The principal, still trying to piece it all together, wonders aloud what the Duke stands to gain by taking Lu Fan along. After all, the Duke is an esteemed figure in the north, while Lu Fan is, well, just a student. Okay, a student who seems to collect dragons the way people collect action figures, but still. The idea of the Duke playing babysitter to a not-so-ordinary student feels almost absurd. It's like sending Gandalf on a field trip with Harry Potter. The Duke, without hesitation, grabs a bottle of wine and starts pouring himself a glass, casually informing the principal that he's been watching Lu Fan for quite some time. According to the Duke, Lu Fan's growth and progress have been nothing short of astounding, as if the kid has been secretly training like he's prepping for the Olympics of magic. So there's no need for the Duke to worry. He's got everything under control, or at least that's what he says between sips. The principal, nodding in agreement, is almost convinced, but throws in one condition before letting Lu Fan go. He insists that the Duke must guarantee that Lu Fan stays out of danger. A tall order considering Lu Fan seems to attract chaos like a magnet attracts metal. Meanwhile, the Duke is already downing his wine like it's water, grumbling that the drink tastes awful. Clearly, protecting a student isn't nearly as stressful as trying to find decent wine. Meanwhile, at the front gate of Longdew Academy, a man in a fancy car arrives and the bratty princess, looking surprisingly calm, beams with happiness. Her big brother has finally come to visit, and for a moment, she almost looks sweet. Almost. Because no amount of sibling joy can hide the fact that she's still as bratty as ever, as she eagerly asks her brother if he's going to help her get revenge. Her brother, acting like the ultimate jerk, assures her that he's going to teach the person who hurt her a good lesson. You know, the kind of lesson that involves less talking and more fists. It's a heartwarming family reunion, except for the part where both siblings are clearly plotting something a little more dramatic than your usual sibling bonding. Later in Villa number 2 of the Academy, the informant checks in with Lu Fan, asking if he received the map. Lu Fan confirms, assuring him that he's about to transfer the money right away, because nothing says, "I'm a responsible treasure hunter," like settling payments on time. The informant, however, is a bit taken aback, mentioning that Lu Fan suddenly went offline last night and couldn't be reached at all. He's relieved that Lu Fan's okay, especially since the map in question is so dangerous that no one else would even dare to buy it, except, of course, for Lu Fan. Because what's life without a little treasure hunting in deadly locations? Remembering the chaos of the previous night, Lu Fan quickly tells the informant that he needs to hang up. Just as he's about to end the call, Jian Ying approaches, curiosity in her eyes. She asks if Lu Fan really plans to head somewhere far. Lu Fan tells her that he's still a bit concerned about the villa and the safety of the ladies and is seriously considering delaying his departure until the investigation results from the attack come through. Because, let's face it, you can't just leave when there's a literal murder mystery to solve. Jian Ying, clearly still shaken from the night before, confesses to Lu Fan that she didn't sleep well. Apparently, all the ladies slept upstairs and the tension made it hard to rest. She asks Lu Fan to let them know when they wake up and to say his goodbyes to everyone. Lu Fan thanks Jian Ying for taking care of all the laddie for him, but Lu Fan, feeling grateful, thanks Jian Ying for taking care of all the ladies for him. Suddenly, the doorbell rings loudly, breaking the moment. Thinking it might be Vice Principal Zhao with the investigation results, Lu Fan heads to the door, ready to ask for an update. But when Lu Fan opens the door, it's not Vice Principal Zhao standing there. Instead, it's a man he doesn't recognize. Lu Fan, clearly caught off guard, asks who the stranger is. The man, looking nervous but trying to stay composed, quickly reassures Lu Fan that he's not someone to be afraid of. Because, of course, nothing screams trustworthy like someone nervously saying, "Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you." He then explains that he had to subdue all the villa's bodyguards because they attacked him on sight before he could explain himself. It's as if the bodyguard's motto was attack first, ask questions, never. Lu Fan, now more confused than ever, starts to wonder if this guy is just another assassin sent by some gang to take him out. Because, let's face it, at this point it feels like being on someone's hit list is just part of his morning routine. Not taking any chances, Lu Fan pulls out his mashie, his mind racing. Do I attack? Negotiate? He's weighing his options, probably leaning toward the let's go with sharp objects approach, when suddenly Qin Chu comes down the stairs, addressing the stranger as Uncle Tu, and asking why he's come to the villa. Lu Fan's confusion deepens as Qin Chu's casual tone clashes with the fact that the bodyguards are scattered around the property, looking very worse for wear. Moments later, the Duke, now comfortably seated on the sofa, explains his visit, while Lu Fan slowly starts to piece things together. He realizes this man is the same Uncle Tu Qin Chu had mentioned before. It's one of those moments where Lu Fan's probably thinking, great, the guy who took down all my bodyguards is actually family. Qin Chu quickly explains to Lu Fan that she's called the Duke Uncle Tu ever since she was little, leaving Lu Fan wondering if he's going to need stronger bodyguards or just fewer surprise visitors. The Duke breathes a sigh of relief, thankful that Qin Chu arrived just in time because, let's be honest, things were about to get real awkward if Lu Fan had decided to introduce his mashie. Lu Fan, equally relieved, thanks the Duke for handling the situation with the bratty princess for so long. The Duke, however, waves it off and explains that although Ruin had been dismissed from his position, he was still seeking revenge on Lu Fan. Fortunately, their last battle had resolved the issue, though knowing Lu Fan, it was probably a mix of fists, dragons, and a lot of well-timed luck. But before the conversation could dive deeper into details, Qin Chu interrupts with a smile, teasing the Duke. She jokes about how she never expected that the once great hero, who had ridden a griffin to confront the Beast-Tide, was now so unrecognized that even the bodyguards of Londu Academy had no idea who he was, because apparently saving the world from a beast invasion doesn't guarantee you VIP access anywhere. Upon hearing that the man before him was the legendary hero who fought in the Beast-Tide, Lu Fan immediately jumps up from his chair. He tells the Duke that while he was studying in the city, the school walls were always filled with stories of heroes who died fighting ferocious beasts. The Duke, as it turns out, was the one who led them to victory, despite the many sacrifices. It's like finding out the person sitting in your living room is basically a fantasy world's version of a war hero, and all you did was almost attack him. The Duke, with a modest smile, downplays the praise, telling Lu Fan that every era has its own outstanding figures, and right now one such figure was Lu Fan himself. Because, sure, leading dragons and surviving constant assassination attempts kind of puts you in the outstanding category. The Duke then informs Lu Fan that he specifically came to find him, not just for a casual chat, but to take him to the extreme north for some serious training. Because naturally, what's next on the agenda for Lu Fan? More chaos, of course, but this time the training montage. The Duke explains that he has already informed the principal about his plan. Taking Lu Fan to the extreme north wouldn't just help him level up, it would also be the perfect preparation for the national trials. Oh, and let's not forget, it's a solid way to dodge any future assassination attempts. But when the girls hear this, they're understandably shocked. Qin Chu points out that the extreme north is uncharted territory and incredibly dangerous because, it's not exactly a weekend getaway spot. Jian Ying adds her concerns, reminding everyone that Lu Fan is the representative of the Dragon Kingdom, and they can't afford for him to have any accidents before the national trials. No pressure, right? But the Duke reassures them, explaining that the harsh conditions of the extreme north are exactly what Lu Fan needs to build his strength. Plus, leaving the academy would mean any further attacks would be aimed at him and not those around him. It's like a tactical vacation, one with more danger and fewer beach days. Now Lu Fan finds himself in a dilemma. On one hand, the treasure he's been after is located in the extreme north. On the other hand, he's got 4 beautiful ladies casually hovering around him, and he's unsure if they'll be safe when he leaves, because leaving your house full of powerful women behind is apparently a tough decision when dragons in danger are your usual company. But before he can overthink it, Jian Ying steps in, telling him that you should definitely go. She explains that every lady in the house has already advanced to the 2nd level, and they're more than capable of taking care of themselves, even without him. Qin Chu agrees, assuring Lu Fan that she'll personally protect his aunt, so he has nothing to worry about. Lu Fan smiles, realizing that he can trust them to handle things while he's away. No fan service for a while, I guess, he muses to himself, finally ready to head to the extreme north for some serious training and treasure hunting. The Duke grins, realizing that he didn't misjudge Lu Fan's potential after all. Feeling celebratory, he orders Qin Chu to fetch some bottles of good wine so they can enjoy a big meal together. But the lady quickly informs him that the strong liquor he desires isn't allowed inside the academy. Apparently, even heroes have to follow school rules, no sneaking in booze here. To make matters worse, Jian Ying, who spends most of her time at Villa Number 1, doesn't have any food items stocked at her place either. With the dinner plans hanging in the balance, Lu Fan takes charge and decides to go buy groceries so they can all eat together. Because when life throws assassinations and battles your way, you still need to figure out dinner. He also plans to say goodbye to his senior before his departure. But there's one lingering issue. The bodyguards are still lying on the floor out of commission after their tussle with the Duke. The Duke wonders if King Qiu can heal them, but Lu Fan offers a better solution, deciding to leave his emerald dragon behind to help with the healing, because who needs a first aid kit when you've got a dragon on hand? Later, Lu Fan's in the Academy's scoring room, still trying to wrap his head around the fact that he just met the legendary hero who resisted the beast tide. It's one thing to read about your heroes and another to have them crash on your couch. Suddenly, his senior lady appears, waving her hands at him and asking why he's at the Academy so late. She explains that she's been busy the past few days, but is more than ready to offer some close combat practice if Lu Fan's interested. But before she can say much more, Lu Fan interrupts, telling her he's not here to train, he's here to say goodbye. The senior lady pretends not to know about his trip to the extreme north, but Lu Fan explains it all, mentioning that he'll be gone for an entire month. It's one of those see you in a month, don't let the dragons burn anything down kind of goodbyes. Upon hearing about Lu Fan's upcoming journey to the extreme north, the senior lady playfully grabs his cheeks, teasing him that heading there will give him far better experience than sparring with a pretty lady like herself. Because apparently dragons and icy wilderness are the real deal, not fancy duels with flirtatious seniors. But her teasing has a hint of concern, as she warns him that it's still a dangerous place, so she urges Lu Fan to take care. Even though our boy blushes, his cheeks practically glowing like he's been hit by a love spell, he thanks her for everything. As Lu Fan says his goodbyes and prepares to leave, the lady suddenly grabs him from behind, making him flustered and turning his face an even deeper shade of red. She playfully remarks that since he's in such a hurry, she doesn't have much to give him. At this point, it's looking suspiciously like something out of the romantic drama, and Lu Fan's probably wishing he had an escape route. But before he can get too embarrassed, she surprises him by pulling out a band, placing it in his hand, and telling him it's for his safety. With a grin, she quickly steps away, encouraging Lu Fan to do his best in the extreme north and at the national trials. Even when Lu Fan tries to stop her, she just smiles, telling him to bring back a piece of unmolten ice as a souvenir. Then, in true dramatic fashion, she disappears into thin air, leaving Lu Fan standing there, holding the band and a few strands of her hair. It's not every day you get goodbye wrapped in mystery and magic, and maybe a tiny bit of flirting. Later, Lu Fan is on his way to the villa after grabbing groceries for the big meal, but he soon notices something off. Someone's following him. Without hesitation, he calls out, telling the hidden figure to show themselves. To his surprise, it's none other than the bratty princess's older brother, who seems shocked that Lu Fan managed to spot him, because clearly stealth isn't the family's strong suit. Not knowing who he is, Lu Fan asks the man for his name. The stranger, putting on his cape dramatically, like he's about to announce himself as some dark wizard, tells Lu Fan that while he might not know him, he knows Lu Fan quite well. He introduces himself as Jin Chenhan, the bratty princess's older brother, and informs Lu Fan that he's come to personally thank him for all the care his little sister has received. Though, judging by the way he says it, Lu Fan can't be sure if this is a thank you or a veiled threat. Lu Fan, caught off guard, eyes Jin Chenhan suspiciously. He quickly asks if this arrogant prince is the top newcomer from the Taiki kingdom. Knowing that this big head is here just to stir up trouble, Lu Fan doesn't waste a second. He materializes his big black mash sheet because nothing says let's talk this out quite like summoning a massive weapon. Lu Fan knows the bratty princess must be lurking nearby with her brother, so he demands she come out. Sure enough, in true princess fashion, she arrogantly steps forward, ready for the show, saying she's eager to see how her brother will teach the dragon Tamer a lesson. It's like she's front row of the Lu Fan takedown show, popcorn in hand. Jin Chenhan, clearly as cocky as his sister, remarks that whether or not he steps in depends entirely on Lu Fan. He boldly suggests that if Lu Fan lets the princess slap him a few times to even the score, the whole situation could be resolved peacefully, because nothing says diplomacy like asking for a few casual slaps. But Lu Fan, always quick with a comeback, mockingly asks if memory loss runs in their family's DNA. After all, last time the princess tried this kind of stunt, it ended with her getting slapped back, and it wasn't exactly a memory she wanted to cherish. At the mention of her past humiliation, the princess visibly flinches, reliving the moment when Lu Fan had slapped her face. She quickly tells her brother that negotiating with Lu Fan, the dragon tamer, is pointless. She urges him to take action without a second thought, because apparently thinking things through is overrated when you're royalty. Obeying his spoiled sister's command, Jin Chenhan squares up to Lu Fan, his arrogance palpable. He tells Lu Fan that if he doesn't have any respect for the Jin family, then he has no choice but to teach him a lesson. Because in their world, teaching a lesson definitely doesn't involve chalkboards. It involves fists, dragons, and a whole lot of bad decisions. Jin Chenhan raises his hands into the air, and Lu Fan immediately recognizes the summoning spell, its sinister nature matching the arrogance of the princess herself. Purple, poisonous gas begins to swirl ominously from Jin's hands, and he smugly informs Lu Fan that he's about to send him straight to his death, because clearly nothing says family bonding like attempting to poison your enemies with style. A mysterious, gooey creature emerges, spewing toxic sludge all around. Lu Fan doesn't waste a second, leaping out of the way and tossing the groceries aside. Rip to those snacks, guess dinner's going to be delayed. As he glances down, he notices the green acid melting through everything it touches, realizing that his immediate priority is to avoid the corrosive goo, because no one wants to end the day as a puddle of melted hero. Things get weirder when Lu Fan sees the shapeless monster begin to morph, taking on the face of Jin Chenhan himself. Because one arrogant Jin clearly wasn't enough, now there's two. Both the real Jin and the monstrous imitation start walking toward Lu Fan, their matching expressions of intimidation as poisonous as the goo they summoned. As it turns out, this grotesque creature is called the Abyssal Crawler, a name fitting for something that looks like it crawls straight out of the worst nightmare ever. But just when things look bleak, a loud screech pierces the air. Lu Fan spins around to see a massive, legendary quality mount swooping down, the Extreme Cold Griffin King. It's the kind of dramatic, last-minute rescue you only see in epic tales, complete with an icy bird of prey. The Griffin King attacks the Abyssal Crawler with all its might, leaving Jin Chenhan staring in utter disbelief. Even he has no idea what's happening to his prize summon as the Griffin tears into it. Suddenly, someone leaps off the Griffin King, landing with a dramatic flourish in front of Jin Chenhan. It's none other than the Duke himself, staff in hand, ready for action, because apparently if you want to make an entrance, arriving on a legendary mount is the way to go. The Duke, with no patience for formalities, immediately demands to know what Jin is doing outside his domain. Hearing the Duke's voice, Jin Chenhan instantly recognizes him, realizing that talking things out isn't going to work with someone as dangerous as this. Without hesitation, the Duke elongates his already formidable staff, and Jin Chenhan, knowing exactly what's coming, shouts at the bratty princess to get out of the way. Because when the Duke is ready to attack, even her spoiled tears won't save her. But before the princess can even begin her usual routine of whining, the Duke's staff impales Jin Chenhan's chest with pinpoint precision. Apparently, even censored, it's a brutal day to be a villain. Black blood pours from Jin's mouth, and even with all the magic censorship in play, it's clear he's in a bad way. The Duke, ever calm, raises his staff and glances down at Jin with a look that says, this was over before it even started. He informs Jin that not even his Abyssal Crawler can escape the clutches of the Griffin King. Because let's be honest, when you've got an ice-breathing, legendary griffin on your side, negotiations are off the table. Meanwhile, the princess, true to form, begins crying in the corner like the spoiled brat she is, watching things spiral out of control. It's basically her go-to move whenever life doesn't go her way. Before Jin Chenhan can even think about freeing himself from the Duke's pointy staff, the Duke, with no hesitation, drives it further into Jin's chest, killing him instantly. Because when the Duke says he's going to teach someone a lesson, he's not talking about a gentle lecture. Everyone is completely shocked by how quickly and effortlessly the Duke has killed Jin Chenhan, because normally people take a moment to think before skewering someone. But the Duke isn't fazed at all, calmly revealing that Jin Chenhan is actually an abyssal summoner with a third-tier skill called Abyssal Symbiosis. As long as his abyssal beast is alive, he can be reborn through it. Basically, the guy's got a get-out-of-death-free card, but it comes with creepy monster strings attached. Sure enough, the man's face starts melting away almost instantly, showing that it wasn't his real body that was killed, because who needs a dramatic last breath when you can just melt and respawn? The Duke, however, is not playing games. He warns Jin that if he doesn't come out now, he'll take care of the Abyssal Crawler, which would mean Jin would be truly finished this time. And when the Duke says finished, he doesn't mean with a slap on the wrist, he means done. Realizing that his escape plan is unraveling fast, the Abyssal Crawler begins transforming, and soon enough, Jin Chenhan reappears, though he's clearly in a tight spot. The bratty princess watches, horrified, as her brother comes back to life, looking pretty worse for wear. It's one thing to be reborn, but it's another to do it when your entire plan just blew up in your face. Desperate, Jin tries to switch tactics. Knowing that brute force won't save him, he plays the victim card, telling the Duke that as a representative of the Taiki Kingdom, any attack on him before the national trial would result in judgment from the 23 nations. Because when all else fails, try throwing some political threats around. While Jin tries to weave his way out of the mess, the Duke's expression remains as cold as ever, probably thinking that playing the victim card after summoning goo monsters is a bit much even for royalty. Lu Fan is completely floored, watching someone literally resurrect right in front of his eyes. Because let's be real, watching someone come back to life isn't exactly on your everyday to-do list. The Duke, however, remains as composed as ever, informing Jin Chenhan that when a national trial representative is attacked, retaliation in defense of that representative comes without consequences from the 23 nations. Basically, Lu Fan has the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card when it comes to self-defense. Multiple thunderbolts of realization hit Jin Chenhan as he processes this. He finally understands that Lu Fan is, in fact, the representative of the Dragon Kingdom. It's one of those moments where everything clicks, and it's not a good click for Jin. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially since his useless sister had completely failed in her attempts to stop Lu Fan from joining the national trials in the first place. Meanwhile, the Duke, clearly frustrated but maintaining his calm, points out to Jin Chenhan that he's not some psychopath who enjoys random murder. Because sure, he just skewered someone, but that doesn't mean he enjoys it, right? He adds that since this year's national trial is being hosted by the Taiki Kingdom itself, it's probably in everyone's best interest to avoid any further trouble. With no options left and realizing he's cornered, Jin Chenhan reluctantly agrees. But the Duke isn't about to let him off without a final word. He makes it very clear that he's never liked the Jin family, which, let's be honest, wasn't exactly a mystery at this point. Then, in one swift motion, the Duke hurls his staff toward the abyssal crawler, landing a final blow, and warns Jin Chenhan to never come near Lu Fan or himself again. Because when the Duke says, "stay away," it's not a polite suggestion. It's a life or death command. The brother, not wasting another second, grabs the crying princess by the arm and tells her to leave immediately. Because when all else fails, it's time to make a dramatic exit. But even in defeat, his arrogance shines through. As they leave, he boldly tells Lu Fan that he's only safe until the national trial. The audacity of talking big after literally being resurrected from the dead? Well, that's a level of delusion even Lu Fan didn't expect. Lu Fan can't help but find it all a bit amusing. I mean, who acts tough after dying just a few minutes earlier? It's almost as if Jin Chenhan is trying to make dying seem like a minor inconvenience. But before Lu Fan can think much more about it, the Duke cuts in, reminding him that they should hurry back inside. Because clearly a bunch of worried ladies are probably pacing in Villa number 2, expecting the worst. Then just as the dust is about to settle, the Duke, with a casual shrug and a twinkle of hope, asks Lu Fan where all the food ingredients are, especially the booze. At that moment, it all comes crashing back to Lu Fan. The groceries, his carefully chosen meal supplies, all victims of the corrosive gas from the now non-existent abyssal crawler. Dinner, drinks, everything had literally melted away. The realization hits the Duke like a ton of bricks. His face transforms into an expression of sheer devastation, as if he's just lost something truly precious. Because apparently surviving near-death battles with monsters is fine, but losing the booze, that's where the real tragedy lies. Later that night, the long-awaited gathering finally takes place and everyone takes the opportunity to let go of the tension from the earlier attack. Jian Ying sits quietly, sipping her drink, while the Duke and Tao Xiaoman are far more lively, clearly enjoying the moment. Lu Fan's aunt, however, can't hold back her tears, repeatedly telling Lu Fan to take care of himself and not to worry about the ladies. Because nothing says bon voyage like a tearful aunt trying to send you off with emotional armor. Meanwhile, Kin Q sits silently, quietly sobbing, unable to find the words to say goodbye. The atmosphere around her speaks volumes, though. She's just as worried as everyone else. Lu Fan reassures them all, smiling as he promises to be back in just a month. But for now, he knows he has to leave. He's been the target of all the attacks, and he can't let them continue to face danger because of him. It's one of those moments where the hero, no matter how strong, realizes that protecting everyone sometimes means stepping away. The next day, Duke is riding his mighty griffin, with Lu Fan sitting alongside him, taking in the view with childlike amusement. Because nothing beats flying on a legendary mount when you're escaping assassination attempts and emotional goodbyes. With only a month left until the national trial and the secrets of the extreme north waiting to be uncovered, Lu Fan's journey is far from over. And something tells him that what's ahead will make all the recent chaos look like a warm-up. The old man, ever practical, tells Lu Fan to hold on tight and try not to get frostbitten. Because apparently frostbite is just part of the welcome package in the extreme north, but Lu Fan isn't too worried about the cold. His attention is locked on the vast, unexplored territories below, places above level 60 that feel like a whole new world. It's like staring at the map in a video game and realizing you've only unlocked the tutorial zone. And somewhere out there, hidden among the snow and danger, lies the divine treasure he's been hunting. Just as he's marveling at the view, something strange catches his eye. A blood-red moon hanging in the sky like a bad omen. When he asks the Duke about it, the old man just smiles that cryptic smile he's so good at. The Duke hints that the Blood Moon is part of the reason they're heading to the extreme north, leaving Lu Fan more curious than ever. They soon arrive at the extreme north military camp, and it's impressive. The elite Griffin squad is gathered, all under the Duke's command. These aren't just any soldiers. These are warriors trained for mounted combat, because fighting while flying on a giant bird isn't exactly something you learn in your average sword class. The camp is buzzing with activity, and it's clear these guys aren't just here for the scenery. The Duke explains that they've been exploring the area for some time, and they currently have 114 exploration routes mapped out. But their target, the very thing Lu Fan saw as the Blood Moon, has remained out of reach. No matter how hard they've tried, they haven't been able to get close to it. Which, let's be honest, is probably why they refer to it as that, because when something refuses to cooperate, you don't waste time coming up with fancy names. With Lu Fan on board, the Duke is feeling optimistic. He's certain their exploration efforts will finally make some real progress, because adding a dragon tamer to the team is like upgrading from a tricycle to a jet. Even Lu Fan sees the alignment of their goals, finding the divine treasure and training in an environment equivalent to a level 60 challenge. As Lu Fan studies the map, his eyes land on two routes that seem closest to the location of the divine treasure. Without hesitation, he points to Route 77 and Route 78 and asks the Duke if he can jump right into the exploration group. The Duke, usually calm, suddenly gets serious, probably thinking, here we go again with the bold choices. He tells Lu Fan that while he appreciates the eagerness for action, Route 78 is no walk in the park. It's a rough area, crawling with ferocious beasts. Basically, it's the place you go if you got a death wish and a sturdy pair of boots. The Duke warns that if anything happens to Lu Fan, given that he's only level 32, the school principal will definitely take the Duke's life without hesitation. Because nothing ruins a reputation like losing a star student to a giant beast. But Lu Fan, ever determined, counters with his usual confidence. He didn't come all the way to the extreme north just to hide from trouble. He's here to improve himself and refuses to take the safe route in life. Because in Lu Fan's world, safe routes are for tourists, not dragon tamers with a treasure to find. The Duke, ever the mentor, activates an inventoried portal because apparently pulling magical weapons out of thin air is just another Tuesday for him. As he does, he comments that Lu Fan's eagerness reminds him of his own reckless youth, rushing headlong into dangerous situations even when no one asked for it. Ah, the good old days when running toward danger was a personality trait. From the inventory, the Duke pulls out a crimson bow, handing it to Lu Fan. Our boy's eyes widen as he immediately recognizes the bow as a legendary level 70 offhand weapon. And let's be honest, getting a shiny new toy like that makes anyone blush, even if you're a seasoned dragon tamer. What's even better, Lu Fan can wield it alongside his big black mashi, making him quite the force to be reckoned with. It's like Christmas came early, and instead of socks, he's getting a legendary weapon. Seeing Lu Fan's slightly flustered reaction, the Duke waves it off, telling him to quit acting so modest and just take the bow. After all, it's not every day someone casually hands you a weapon that could level a small village. The Duke insists that with Route 78 ahead, Lu Fan is going to need every bit of help he can get, and these preparations are essential. Lu Fan assures the Duke that he's ready for the challenge, though the Duke can't resist adding that if he could have used the bow himself, there's no way he would have handed it over. So really, Lu Fan's just lucky the Duke's too old for this level 70 gear. Just then, a soldier appears behind the Duke, informing him that the military uniform is now ready. The Duke, always the strategist, steps behind Lu Fan and insists he put on the uniform before they get any closer to the Blood Moon. Because nothing says we're taking this seriously like a fresh new uniform to match your new legendary weapon. The Duke adds that if Lu Fan still insists on exploring Route 78 after seeing what lies ahead, then they'll set off with a full team tomorrow, because at this point it's less about exploration and more about survival with style. Lu Fan, brimming with excitement, quickly dons the military uniform, telling the Duke he can't wait any longer. He's ready to go, eager to dive into whatever challenges lie ahead. Because when you've got a new uniform and a legendary bow, who wouldn't feel ready to conquer the world? Later, while riding on his legendary griffin, the Duke can't help but poke a little fun at Lu Fan, asking why, despite being a dragon rider, he's not actually riding a dragon. Lu Fan explains that his dragon's level isn't high enough yet, so he hasn't unlocked the necessary skills. It's like having a fancy car but not knowing how to drive it, slightly embarrassing but full of potential. The Duke, ever the jokester, takes a swig from his drink and teases that he might make an exception and recruit Lu Fan into the Griffin squad once he figures out how to actually ride his dragons. But before the banter can go on much longer, Lu Fan spots something ominous in the sky, demonic flying creatures known as owl demons. These level 60 beasts are known to drive their targets insane after just seconds of hearing their eerie calls. It's like dealing with a nightmare crossed with a bad concert. Even as these terrifying creatures attack, the Duke remains calm, sipping his drink without a care in the world. Clearly, getting attacked by demons is just another Tuesday for him. Before Lu Fan can even get a warning out, he notices that the Duke has already materialized his staff completely unfazed. The Duke, in his typical gruff fashion, tells Lu Fan that he is the one who needs to be careful. The reaction speed required for Route 78 isn't something to joke about, and Lu Fan's current performance isn't exactly blowing anyone away. All the elite Griffin squad members are well above level 70, and while the Duke had teased about recruiting Lu Fan, it's clear he's not quite there yet. Lu Fan, knowing he's no longer in the comfortable environment of the academy, quickly realizes the gravity of the situation. This isn't just another practice fight, this is serious business. If he's going to prove himself, he's going to have to step up. Because when you're facing owl demons and a slightly tipsy Duke, things are bound to get intense. The Duke informs Lu Fan that they've arrived near the so-called Blood Moon. But as they get closer, Lu Fan is stunned to see that what he thought was a move is actually a giant eye. Because nothing says welcome to the extreme north like a colossal eyeball staring at you from the mountains. This eye is opened out of nowhere, embedded deep within the harsh landscape of the extreme north mountains. The Duke explains that somewhere within this very mountain lies an enormous beast, though even his team has no clue what it is. Lu Fan studies the giant eye and realizes that the surrounding mountains seem to form the shape of half a dragon's head. Because of course it wouldn't be a normal day for Lu Fan if he weren't facing off with something that resembles a dragon. But there's no way to confirm if it really is a dragon. Whatever it is, the creature's body is so massive that even the Griffin squad hasn't been able to investigate it properly. The Duke adds that when his mighty Griffin first laid eyes on the giant eye, even it was too terrified to approach. And when a legendary Griffin gets scared, you know you've got a real problem on your hands. Curious and concerned, Lu Fan opens his system window, hoping to get more information about the mysterious creature. To his shock, even the system can't identify the entity in front of them. It's the kind of moment where you realize that even the world's best cheat codes won't help. The Duke, with a serious tone, points out that in their world, there are still vast, uncharted territories where humans have barely set foot. Many more unknown areas remain, waiting for someone brave enough or crazy enough like himself to lead the Griffin squad and explore the depths of these hidden mysteries. And if that someone happens to enjoy a stiff drink while doing it, well, that's just a bonus. The Duke recalls the first time he encountered the giant eye. It had been during what was supposed to be a simple extraction mission, rescuing their teammates from a horde of owl demons. But in the chaos of an avalanche, as they fought to save their comrades, the giant eye had suddenly appeared in the middle of the mountain, staring down at them. And nothing derails a rescue mission like a surprise eyeball the size of a house. That was over a year ago, and despite experts from all the nations investigating it, no one has been able to figure out what the creature it is. But one thing is certain, it's alive. The eye had opened right in front of the Duke, and ever since, he's carried the fear that if this beast ever awakens, humanity might face its end. Because when your planet has a giant, mysterious eyeball monster lurking in the mountains, you tend to lose sleep. Just as the Duke reflects on this chilling memory, Lu Fan calls out to him, pointing to figures in the sky. At first glance, they look like members of the Griffin squad soaring through the air, but the Duke's face immediately hardens and he grips his staff tightly. He tells Lu Fan that those figures are indeed former members of the Griffin squad, but they're no longer alive. It turns out these flying creatures are fallen corpses, twisted monsters of level 65, destined to fight endlessly despite their lack of life. Because apparently even in death, the extreme north doesn't give you a break. Now the once proud Griffin squad members are reduced to flying horrors, ready to battle until the end of time. Lu Fan finds himself clashing with one of the fallen corpses, its twisted form still bearing the remnants of what was once a proud warrior. He wonders if this creature had once been a member of the Griffin squad, a life lost near the Blood Moon. When he turns to the Duke for answers, the old man remains silent, his usual humor nowhere to be found. Instead, the Duke simply turns his Griffin around, avoiding the question, and informs Lu Fan that the fallen corpses are indeed troublesome. But rather than killing them, the Duke opts for a less violent approach. He uses his Griffin mount to cast a web of extreme cold, because when you've got a giant freezing bird on your side, why not get creative? The icy net spreads out, dealing freezing damage to everything it catches. Somehow, Lu Fan manages to avoid the icy clutches of the fallen skeletons, though he can't shake the chill of what they once were. Curiosity still gnawing him, Lu Fan presses the Duke again, asking if these creatures were once his subordinates. The Duke, however, stays tight-lipped, simply shaking his head as he orders Lu Fan to follow him. Clearly, this is one part of the Duke's past he's not ready to talk about, at least not between battles with the undead. As they begin to fly away, the fallen corpses hit the ground with a thunderous impact. Lu Fan's eyes catch the familiar sight of the capes they're wearing, the very same Griffin squad capes that had been given to him upon joining. It's a grim realization. These creatures were once the Duke's soldiers, loyal members of the Griffin Squad. What had once been proud warriors were now mere shadows of their former selves, trapped in an endless cycle of battle even after death. The next morning, Lu Fan is sitting in the Duke's office, confidently telling the old man that whether it's fallen corpses, colossal creatures, or who knows what else standing in his way, he's still determined to head to the front lines. Because when you're on a quest involving dragons and mystery eyes, backing down isn't an option. It's just bad storytelling. The Duke, impressed by the fire in Lu Fan's eyes, calls for the other members of the 78th Griffin Squad to join them. Soon enough, the team arrives, and the first to report in is an old man who looks uncannily like the Duke, almost like the universe ordered a second Duke but accidentally hit clone instead of twin. This man is Luffy, a level 16 Divine Punishment Knight and the captain of the first squad. He's seen enough action to make the Duke look like a spring chicken, which says a lot. Next up is Lu Changkong, a blonde-haired, level 10 Holy Shield Knight. He steps forward and asks the Duke what the mission for the day is, probably hoping it's something less crazy than fighting giant eyeballs and reanimated squad members. Then comes Shen Kai, a girl with glasses and a sharp look of focus, who happens to be a level 10 Soaring Eagle Knight. Because when you're a knight who can fly, wearing glasses just adds to the superhero vibe. The Duke then turns to Lu Changkong and tells him there's a new addition to the team, and who else could it be but Lu Fan, the number one from Dragon Capital Academy. Because if you're going to recruit a new team member, might as well go for the top of the class. Upon hearing the name of the academy, Lu Changkong lights up. Turns out he's a proud graduate of Dragon Capital Academy as well, from the prestigious King Yin class. It's like finding out you and the new guy went to the same school, except instead of trading stories about cafeteria food, you're gearing up to fight mythical beasts. Lu Fan, surprised and a little starstruck, shakes hands with his senior, Lu Changkong, humbly asking him to look out for him. Because when you meet someone from your alma mater, it's only polite to ask for a little extra care, especially when you're about to face life-threatening missions. Lu Changkong, with a grin, reassures everyone that there's no need to worry. He'll make sure Lu Fan is well taken care of. It's the kind of confident smile that says, "Don't worry, I've got your back, and probably your lunch too." But just as things start to settle, Captain Luffy approaches the Duke, clearly not as charmed by the camaraderie. He has some questions about Lu Fan's presence. Meanwhile, Lu Fan, still curious, asks Lu Changkong about the badge Captain Lu Fei is wearing. Changkong explains that it's a military badge, a hard-earned symbol that qualifies him to be a captain. Apparently, not just anyone can wear it, you have to earn it, like leveling up in a really intense video game. He adds that those rank higher than Captain Lu Fei wear silver or gold badges, and within the Griffin Squad, only 8 people hold gold badges. When the Duke isn't around, those 8 are in charge. Because nothing says elite squad like flashing gold badges and wielding legendary weapons. Captain Fei, still skeptical, questions the Duke's decision to send a college student on a mission in the extreme northern region. Because sending a student for a deadly internship in uncharted territory doesn't exactly scream normal onboarding process. Captain Fei makes it clear that the 78th Squad doesn't have time to babysit, and their mission is far too dangerous for someone green. But the Duke, not one to be questioned about his decisions, looks serious. He reminds Captain Luffy that he never jokes when it comes to his work. If Lu Fan faces danger or even death on the battlefield, well, that's Lu Fan's problem. It turns out that the Duke and Captain Lu Fei are brothers, and the Duke wastes no time asserting his authority. He orders that Lu Fan is now officially a member of the 78th Squad, so they are to treat him like any other team member. No special treatment, no babysitting, just a straight-up trial by fire, because that's how family rolls in the Griffin Squad. Even Captain Lu Fei, though a bit hesitant, agrees. He tells Shen Kai to take Lu Fan to the squad meeting room for the mission briefing. Shen, however, is not exactly thrilled. Her face says it all. Escorting the new guy is about as exciting to her as folding laundry. Still, she does as ordered, and the scene shifts to the 78th Squad's meeting room. Captain Luffy starts the briefing by informing the team that, according to reports from their forward stations, a massive blizzard is on its way and will hit the area in 4 days. Because, of course, it wouldn't be a real mission without a deadly snowstorm to add a little extra drama. This means their mission has to be completed within those 4 days. The captain explains that it will take them 2 days to travel to and from the forward station, leaving them with only 2 days to explore Route 78. Because nothing says tight deadline like a ticking snow clock. Lu Changkong, ever the practical one, voices concern about whether they'll have enough time to explore properly. Captain Lu Fei asserts that with the addition of a new team member, their goal this time is to clear 100 miles, and that will be considered a successful mission. But Shen immediately counters, because when you've got a student on board, you've got to adjust your expectations, or at least that's her logic. She argues that 100 miles might be a bit too much considering they now have a student in tow, and they'll have to take it easy on him while exploring, because clearly she doesn't realize that Lu Fan's idea of taking it easy involves dragons and near-death experiences. Even as Lu Changkong tries to keep the peace and stop Shen from making things worse, she continues acting like she couldn't care less about Lu Fan's situation. Clearly, her welcoming committee skills need some work. Meanwhile, Lu Fan is quietly focused on the map, mentally plotting his path. He realizes that if he can successfully push through the unexplored areas, there's a real chance he'll find the divine-level treasure map, because nothing says team mission like secretly planning a side quest. Suddenly, Captain Lu Fei interrupts the tension by ordering everyone to prepare their griffins and get ready to depart in 15 minutes. No time for bickering, adventure calls. But Shen, never one to miss an opportunity to complain, grumbles about how they're being treated like robots, heading out into the wild without even waiting for the blizzard to pass. Because why wait for safety when you can march headfirst into danger? The captain naturally ignores her complaints and turns to Lu Fan, instructing him to leave his mount in the squad's stables so they can take care of it. But Lu Fan, ever the realist, informs him that his mount isn't leveled up enough to be a proper ride yet. Both Shen and Lu Changkong look at him in shock. It's like showing up to a car race without a car. Shen, unsurprisingly, takes this as another opportunity to express her frustration, declaring that she's not about to carry him just because he doesn't have a ride. Because if there's one thing she's not signing up for, it's giving piggyback rides. Lu Changkong, ever the practical one, asks how Lu Fan is planning to fly without a mount. But Lu Fan just smiles, the kind of smile that says, "You're about to see something cool." He reassures them, telling the team not to worry about carrying him because, of course, when you're a dragon tamer, you don't really need a griffin to make an entrance. Later, the entire squad is once again shocked to their core as they watch Lu Fan soaring through the air using his flying wings without any mount at all. It's the kind of look, no hands, moment that leaves everyone's jaws hanging open. Shen, ever curious but still trying to maintain her cool, asks if Lu Fan's family is part of the Dragon Capital elite since he has such rare and impressive equipment. Because when you've got wings like that, it's hard not to assume you come from money or magic, or both. But before Lu Fan can answer, he spots something odd and asks Shen why her giant eagle mount has baby eagles escorting it. Because apparently even eagle parents need a babysitting squad. Shen, clearly not in the mood for idle chit-chat, quickly brushes him off, telling him there's no time for questions. They're about to enter the cloud cluster, and things are about to get serious. The sky quickly grows dense, and thunderclouds begin unleashing bolts of lightning in every direction, aiming right at the griffins. Captain Lu Fei orders the group to stay alert, warning them that visibility inside the cloud cluster will be dangerously low. It's the kind of weather report that says, "Good luck, you're going to need it." Lu Changkong, ever the cautious one, advises Lu Fan to stay close and not get separated. And of course, in true adventure fashion, the moment someone says, "Don't get lost," is exactly when someone gets lost. Within 5 seconds of the warning, because that's just how comic timing works, Lu Fan finds himself separated from the group, surrounded by swirling clouds and unable to see anyone. It's like being told not to press a button, and pressing it immediately. Two glaring eyes pierce through the mist behind Lu Fan, staring at him with an intensity that feels like it could burn a hole right through him. As he turns around, he comes face to face with a giant lion-like creature, its crimson red eyes glowing menacingly, and a devilish grin spread across its face. It's the kind of smile that says, "Your tonight's dinner special." The creature, now revealed to be the sky predator lion, a corrupted corpse of level 75, looks more than ready to devour a boy. Lu Fan tries to attack, but his efforts barely scratch the beast. It's like trying to stop a charging bull with a toothpick. He quickly realizes that these corrupted corpses, spread all around the Blood Moon, aren't just affecting humans, they're warping every creature in their path. The sky predator lion wastes no time and unleashes its Phantom Strike, a terrifying ability that lets it strike instantly from the mist. Worse, if it hits a target, it creates a phantom that mimics its abilities for 10 seconds. Because, one deadly lion isn't enough. Let's throw in a ghost version just to up the chaos. Lu Fan, knowing he can't recklessly summon his dragon in such a volatile situation, is suddenly saved by a voice. It's Lu Changkong, who shouts for the junior to get out of the way. Lady Shen's escort Hawk swoops in near the sky predator lion, using its twin eagle feint to strike the creature at high speed, drawing its attention. It's like watching a bird play a very dangerous game of tag with a lion. Shen quickly moves behind the creature, telling Lu Fan not to let the sky predator lion create any more phantoms. Apparently, one ghostly lion is already one too many. Who knew? She reveals she's already lost one of her escort eagles to this monster's tricks, and she's not eager to lose another. Lu Changkong tells Lu Fan not to fall behind because the clouds are full of elite monsters, and being the good senior he is, promises to protect Lu Fan. Because for the 78 squad, fighting these terrifying monsters is just another Tuesday, daily fare, as he puts it. But Lu Fan, ever sincere, insists he can't just sit back and watch them fight while he does nothing. Because nothing screams awkward like standing around while everyone else is in a life-or-death battle. As the Sky Predator Lion begins using Cloud Mist Mirage, blending into the mist, Shen immediately warns Lu Fan that newcomers shouldn't act on their own. It's not the time to be the hero. It's the time to not get everyone killed. She emphasizes that he should stick to the team's plan, as this isn't the kind of battle where you can go rogue. Lu Changkong, ever the confident one, assures Lu Fan that they've got this covered. They've been relying on Captain Lu Fei for far too long, and now it's time for them to handle the Sky Predator themselves. Because nothing says promotion material like taking down a giant corruptive lion without needing to call on the captain for help. They still don't have a badge of their own, but with this fight, they're hoping to finally earn one. Apparently, defeating elite monsters is the best way to build your resume in the Griffin squad. Just then, the trio hears an ominous and eerie voice echoing through the clouds, and all three quickly realize it's not coming from the Sky Predator Lion. Even Lu Fan understands that something far more dangerous has arrived. Shannon and Lu Changkong, both visibly shaken, start running in the opposite direction because nothing screams bad news like seasoned warriors booking it out of there. They shout to Lu Fan that the Heaven Devourer has come to the Cloud Cluster, a terrifying, corrupted monster that is no ordinary foe. They urge him to retreat immediately. As Lu Fan looks up, he spots the creature, a massive whale-like beast hovering just above the Cloud Cluster. It's like a terrifying airborne Moby Dick, but way more end-of-the-world vibes. This corrupted Heaven Devourer is even larger than the world-destroying form of the legendary Black Dragon, and that alone sends a cold shiver down his spine. Just when Lu Fan is frozen in place, Captain Lu Fei shows up in the nick of time, yelling at him to stop standing there and fly. Because if there's one thing you don't do when a giant space whale appears, it's stand around staring at it. Even Lu Changkong, usually confident, starts to lose hope, knowing that facing the Heaven Devourer means they are all in serious trouble. But Shen immediately snaps at him to shut up and fly, reminding them that the Cloud Cluster is already teeming with corrupted corpses and anything near the Blood Moon is tainted. Lu Fan realizes that although the Heaven Devourer doesn't seem to have any life energy, its presence alone is warping everything around it. It's the kind of creature that turns bad day into apocalyptic nightmare. Without warning, the Heaven Devourer begins to open its massive mouth, and Lu Fan's heart sinks as he realizes that just being in range of this monstrosity, it is draining health at a terrifying rate, 17% of the target's maximum health per second. And if that's not a reason to fly like your life depends on it, nothing is. Lu Fan, feeling the weight of impending doom, realizes there's no way to escape the Heaven Devourer's range. Desperate, he considers summoning his dragon, even though he's unsure if it would be affected by the Blood Moon's corruption. Because when you're facing a giant death whale, you've got to try something, right? He tells Captain Lu Fei that he'll handle everything, but the captain immediately shoots that idea down, telling him to calm down and stick with the group. Apparently, now's not the time for solo heroics, especially when the sky's trying to eat you. Even Shen, who moments earlier seemed ready to throw Lu Fan to the metaphorical wolves or lions, reassures him that they're almost out of the Cloud Cluster. She urges everyone to keep moving without causing a commotion, because nothing says, let's be quiet like a giant space whale ready to devour everything. As soon as they break free from the dense clouds, Shen breathes a sigh of relief, announcing that the crisis has been averted. Lu Fan, still on edge, can't quite wrap his head around why the Heaven Devourer suddenly stopped chasing them. After all, it's not every day that a giant monster just gives up like it's bored of playing tag. Captain Lu Fei explains that once the Heaven Devourer leaves the Cloud Cluster, it can't sustain itself in the open sky and will simply fall to the ground. It's like finding out the boss monster has a fatal weakness. You just have to lure it out and hope it doesn't figure out your plan. Lu Fan, humbled by the experience, realizes that each corrupted creature requires different strategies to defeat. These are hard-earned lessons passed down by the veterans of the Griffin squad, many learned at the cost of their lives. Lu Fan stops questioning the wisdom of his teammates, understanding that survival often comes down to trusting those who face death and live to tell the tale. As soon as the Heaven Devourer broke free of the clouds, it plummeted toward the ground, performing its ultimate move, whale fall. Because why just fall when you can make a dramatic exit that sounds like it belongs in a nature documentary? Fortunately for the team, they were far above the ground, and none of them were hit by the massive creature's final attack. Captain Lu Fei quickly ordered the squad to prepare for landing and rest. As the group descended, they observed the enormous whale carcass below, which had now turned into nothing more than a giant structure of bones. Apparently, even in death, the whales got to be extra, leaving behind a spooky skeletal landmark for future adventurers. Lu Changkong, ever the senior, turned to Lu Fan with a smirk, remarking how the captain was in such a rush that he dragged a newcomer into the cloud cluster when they could have taken a safer, longer route. Lu Fan, feeling responsible, starts to apologize, realizing that his lack of familiarity with the northern frontier may have contributed to the rushed decisions. But Lu Changkong waves off his apology, assuring him that everyone goes through these learning curves when they first join the Griffin squad. Because let's be honest, no one's born knowing how to survive cloud clusters and corrupted sky whales. He tells Lu Fan that encountering the Blood Moon and its corrupted corpses is part of the experience, and every squad member has a first time facing them. As they turn around, they see Captain Lu Fei silently setting up camp while Shen feeds the griffins. Shen's frustration is written all over her face because nothing says "I love my job" like grumbling about deadlines while feeding giant birds. She complains that at this pace, they're running out of time to finish the exploration mission with only 3.5 days left. The captain, ever calm and methodical, dismisses her concerns, quietly noting that it's just the newcomer, Lu Fan, slowing them down a bit. He assures her that they'll adjust and push forward. The lady's frustration hits its peak as she angrily demands from Captain Lu Fei what time they have left for adjusting. She's practically fuming, pointing out that while he and Lu Changkong might be cool as cucumbers, she's seriously worried they won't even make it back by the 4th day, because nothing adds to the charm of a deadly mission like racing against time. Without warning, she turns her fury on Lu Fan, storming towards him. She tells him she doesn't know what strings he pulled to land himself in the extreme north, because clearly in her mind he must have used some extreme North Express pass. She makes it clear that this isn't some place where one can earn a badge of honor just by tagging along. She all but tells him to think twice before continuing on this road because, let's face it, he's not exactly on a sightseeing tour. Still venting, she warns that if the thing sleeping beneath their feet wakes up, it won't just be the Dragon Kingdom in danger, but the entire world. No pressure, just the end of humanity on the line. She basically tells Lu Fan to head back to the barracks and stick to logistics, because when the real crisis hits, they won't have the luxury of playing Manny. Clearly, she's not in the mood to sugarcoat things. But Lu Fan, ever the picture of calm, stands his ground. It's the kind of calm that says, "I've dealt with angry teachers and disappointed parents. This is nothing." He assures her that he's learned a lot from the captain and the team, and he's gotten a good grasp of the extreme north. He politely asks her to trust that he can be of help when the going gets tough, because apparently nothing says "trust me" like confidently standing in the middle of a rant. Just as the argument heats up, Lu Changkong swoops in like a referee at a sports game, stepping between them and trying to cool things down. The captain, however, steps in and ends the spat by calmly reminding the lady that if the Duke arranged for Lu Fan to be on the team, there must be a solid reason. Because really, when the Duke makes a decision, you don't argue. You just hope it's not going to involve more sky whales. The captain quickly orders the team to rest up, knowing they'll be moving out soon. Shen reluctantly agrees, but still shoots a skeptical glance at Lu Fan, probably wondering if he's going to be more of a liability than an asset. The captain reassures her, telling her not to overthink it, and to just make sure Lu Fan doesn't get in the way. Basically, her new mission is to make sure Lu Fan doesn't accidentally turn their dangerous mission into a full-blown disaster. Just when everyone is about to catch their breath, the griffins start squawking, signaling that the whole team is under attack. Shen wonders aloud what could be coming at them, but before she can even finish the thought, the captain orders everyone to scatter. Huge ice blocks are hurling towards them at insane speeds, because nothing screams rest break like dodging lethal chunks of ice. Lu Changkong immediately puts up his holy shield, using it to protect the group, but in the classic hero slips on a banana peel move, he missteps, injures himself, and gets separated from Lu Fan. Meanwhile, our boy Lu Fan is on his own, dodging the incoming ice blocks and wondering if it's another corrupted corpse behind the attack. Because of course, when in doubt, blame the corpses. The captain checks in, reporting that Shem and he are safe, but is confused about Lu Fan's whereabouts. He keeps calling for Lu Fan to respond, but our boy is too busy trying to figure out what kind of creature is attacking. Because when you're surrounded by ice and chaos, thinking things through is clearly priority number one. Despite the captain's repeated calls, Lu Fan doesn't respond, not because he's ignoring them, but because he's just realized he's in the middle of something much worse. Multiple corrupted corpses and level 80 elite monsters surround him, none other than the ice-field Yetis, towering beasts of the frozen wasteland. And because life just loves throwing one curveball after another, these Yetis aren't here to deliver snowballs. They are here to crush everything in sight. Captain Lu Fi, still trying to keep his cool, orders Lu Fan to respond if he's still alive. Because, it's always good to check if the rookie hasn't become an ice cube. But the lady quickly tells him to hush up, reminding him that yelling is only going to draw even more attention from the monsters. Because nothing says, "Hey, we're over here," like shouting in the middle of a monster-infested ice field. The lady, clearly not feeling optimistic, mutters that it's probably all over for Lu Fan. She figures there's no way he could survive against elite-level monsters. Eve, the captain, taking in the situation, realizes that with 20 or 30 ice monsters swarming the field, this isn't the kind of party they want to crash. They can't fight them all, and survival means finding a way out, not duking it out with a mob of angry Yetis. She suggests using her falcon to perform a fiend attack, but before any real plan can unfold, they're attacked. A hulking Yeti looms above the captain, its shadow falling over him like the worst version of a snow day ever. Sensing his presence, Captain Lu Fei quickly tells the lady that he'll go after Lu Changkong and bring him back. Both manage to narrowly dodge the creature's attack, but with the Yeti being as relentless as a bad boss during performance reviews, the captain knows they need a new plan. He orders the lady to go find Lu Changkong by herself while he holds off the giant Yeti. She hesitates for a moment but ultimately agrees, knowing this is no time for debate. Because when a giant, bloodthirsty monster is breathing down your neck, you don't argue, you run like your life depends on it. She dashes off into the icy wilderness, leaving Captain Lu Fei to face the monster alone. And if this isn't the worst solo showdown he's ever been in, it's definitely in the top 3. Just as Shen leaps through the icy obstacles, she catches a glimpse of Captain Lu Fei in trouble. The Yeti has shattered his longsword, and his legs are trembling under the force of the beast's relentless blows. She notices another Yeti searching for her, so she quickly realizes she needs to expose herself just enough for her teammate to spot her, but not enough to attract the Yeti's full attention. It's a delicate balance, kind of like trying to send a text in a meeting without your boss noticing. She spots the griffin still circling above and produces a low-pitched whistle that's recognized by the griffin. Unfortunately, the Yetis hear it too and begin searching for her. Because of course the one time you want stealth, it's ruined by giant furry beasts with super hearing. With no other choice, she materializes 2 swords in her hands, hoping that Lu Changkong catches her signal and figures out where she is before the Yetis do. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Lu Fan, who has already found Lu Changkong. Seeing that the senior is injured, Lu Fan tells him not to speak and just rest up, while our boy steps up to face the 3 Yetis approaching them. Because nothing says perfect timing like having a rookie take on 3 hulking monsters. Lu Fan materializes his trusty big black mashie, ready for the showdown, while Lu Changkong, lying there worried, wonders if Lu Fan even knows how to handle monsters of this caliber. To Lu Changkong, it's like watching someone try to fix a car without ever having seen a wrench. He's convinced there's no way Lu Fan can beat these level 80 elite ice monsters, but Lu Fan, as usual, seems unfazed, probably because he hasn't read the memo that these Yetis are practically walking disasters. The Yetis, furious and determined, begin charging up their ice throw skill, hurtling toward Lu Fan with terrifying speed. One of them attempts to land a crushing punch on our boy, but Lu Fan, quick as ever, slices off the Yeti's hand in one swift, clean strike. Because if there's one thing Lu Fan's learned, it's that sometimes a good disarm is the best defense, literally. His Dragon Fang strike, now powered up with sky breathing and infused with dragon energy, slashes the Yeti twice in quick succession, leaving the creature reeling in pain. As Lu Fan turns, he sees the Yeti being engulfed in the fierce flames of his dragons. Not one to let an opportunity slip by, Lu Fan charges toward the creature to finish the job with the final blow. Meanwhile, Lu Changkong, watching all this unfold, is having a wait what just happened moment. He's completely baffled by what he's seeing, as Lu Fan makes quick work of the massive creature. The Yeti collapses into the thin ice, its severed hand lying next to it, leaving Lu Changkong in awe. At this point, he's probably wondering if he's been seriously underestimating the new guy. Finally, Lu Fan casually reveals to Lu Changkong that he's none other than the famous dragon Tamer of the southern province. Because why not drop that bomb after dismembering a giant ice monster? But just as they start to feel like they've got the upper hand, one of the remaining Yetis smashes multiple giant ice blocks and hurls them at Lu Fan with blinding speed. Apparently, these Yetis don't believe in giving a guy a breather. Not one to back down, Lu Fan quickly envelops his big black mashie in a blue aura, activating the Starry Sky skill. This time, his Dragon Fang strike carries the power of the Star Dragon, rather than the legendary Black Dragon. Because when life gives you Yetis, you upgrade your dragons and hit back harder. Lu Changkong watches in utter disbelief as Lu Fan, a mere level 32 Dragon Master, takes on and actually defeats level 80 elite monsters. It's the kind of sight that makes you wonder if Lu Fan's been holding secret training sessions with a cheat code on the side. He tries to make sense of it, stating that Lu Fan mentioned earlier that his mount wasn't strong enough for him to ride, but here he is wreaking havoc. Meanwhile, Both Shen and Captain Lu Fei finally manage to defeat the Yeti they were battling and rush over to rescue Lu Changkong. As they arrive, Shen is visibly shocked at the state of Lu Changkong's injuries, but Captain Lu Fei's reaction is even more dramatic when he spots Lu Fan still alive and kicking. Because let's face it, seeing a rookie survive a monster mash like this is like watching a house cat wrestle a lion and win. Before they can process the situation, Lu Changkong fills them in, explaining that it was Lu Fan who had found him and saved his life. He's even relieved to see both the captain and Shen in one piece. But before anyone can bask in the reunion moment, an enraged Ice Yeti roars and charges straight for Lu Fan, clearly not done with its rampage. Captain Lu Fei, seeing the danger, shouts at Lu Fan to dodge immediately. But let's be honest, it's one of those classic, it's too late moments that makes you wonder if Captain Lu's about to pull out a plot twist. And sure enough, knowing there's no time to lose, the captain hurls his sword toward the Yeti, piercing it right through the chest. This isn't just any ordinary sword, it's the legendary sword Victory, a blade that automatically tracks its target until it strikes, dealing a lethal blow. It's like the ultimate heat-seeking missile, except in sword form and a nightmare for any monster dumb enough to stand in its path. The sword deals 100% physical damage and a staggering 76% holy damage per second, ensuring that the Ice Yeti's days, or rather seconds, are numbered. As the immediate crisis fades, Captain Lu Fei sternly warns Lu Fan not to act recklessly, urging him to let him devise a plan. Meanwhile, Shen informs the group that they need to evacuate. They're simply outnumbered by too many Yetis, and their griffins aren't responding. Her giant eagle could still carry 2 people, but it's clear they're in a tight spot. Just then, Lu Fan, with a confident smile, starts talking about how dealing with the situation isn't as complicated as it seems. He nonchalantly suggests that the best way to resolve this problem is to defeat all the snow monsters, like it's the most obvious solution in the world. Shen, of course, snaps at him immediately, telling him to stop talking nonsense and to just retreat to the nearest outpost. Because, in her world, running from Yetis is much more sensible than playing hero with a grin. But Lu Fan, still as serious as ever, insists that he's not kidding. He even adds that he could heal everyone if there weren't so many monsters, because multitasking in a Yeti apocalypse is apparently his thing. As the ice monsters close in, Shen still can't believe that Lu Fan actually thinks he can handle the situation. She's probably thinking he's auditioning for some crazy monster-slaying reality show. But Lu Fan, determined as ever, starts materializing something from his inventory. Without missing a beat, he echoes her own words, saying there's no time for chit-chat now. It's time to deal with the monsters. Because if anyone's going to dish out irony with a side of swordplay, it's Lu Fan. Lu Fan quickly tells Shen to handle the wounded and evacuate while he deals with the rampaging Yetis. He then materializes the Crimson Bow gifted to him by the Duke, a weapon so legendary it could practically have its own fan club. The Duke's brother, eyes wide with recognition, points out that it's none other than the Dark Serpent Bow, a weapon famous for forcing back entire armies and now in the hands of a guy who casually thinks a Yeti army is a warm-up. Even Shen, who moments ago was rolling her eyes at Lu Fan's bravado, suddenly realizes that maybe, just maybe, Lu Fan isn't full of hot air. Because when you see someone wielding a bow that once made invading guards rethink their life choices, you start to question your skepticism. Shen begins to wonder if Lu Fan might actually be able to pull this off. Meanwhile, our boy, cool as ever, turns his back to his comrades while the Yetis continue their charge. He tells Captain Lu Fei and Shen they need to withdraw from the ice field because it's crawling with snow monsters. And clearly, dealing with an army of Yetis is tough enough without teammates cramping his monster-slaying style. Lu Fan makes it clear he can handle the monsters, but only if his allies get out of the way. Because if there's one thing Lu Fan doesn't do, it's let a Yeti horde ruin his dramatic solo moment. Shen quickly calls for the Griffin to rescue Lu Changkong. Captain Lu Fei gives Lu Fan one last nod, telling him to be cautious. It's the kind of be careful. That sounds more like good luck, kid, because let's be real, they're all expecting either heroics or disaster. Promising not to cause any trouble on their way out, the trio takes off, leaving Lu Fan alone with a literal army of Yetis. Because what better time to test out a legendary weapon than when you're surrounded by monsters with nothing but cold wind and your own courage to keep you company? As they fly towards the outpost, Shen can't shake the feeling that maybe leaving Lu Fan alone was a mistake. She's probably thinking, we just left him in a buffet of Yetis, and he's the main course. But Lu Changkong, with a knowing grin, reassures her. He's seen how Lu Fan fights, and he's confident there's no way our boy is going down. Because when you see someone casually fight Yetis like he's in an action movie, you start to believe in miracles. Back on the battlefield, Lu Fan is feeling pretty good about himself as he charges up the Duke's bow, a powerful red aura swirling around it. It's the kind of energy that practically screams something epic is about to happen. He takes aim, the fiery skill fully charged, and you can tell he's enjoying this a little too much. Meanwhile, Changkong explains to Shen that leaving Lu Fan behind wasn't a risk at all. In fact, they were lucky to witness firsthand the prowess of the dragon Tamer of the southern province, the guy who's more of a legend than an actual person at this point, like he's walking straight out of a myth book. Meanwhile, as Lu Fan steadies his aim, he knows one thing: when you've got a legendary bow in hand surrounded by enemies, there's really only one thing to do: let the fireworks begin. The Yeetis, relentless in their assault, continue hurling their ice throw attack, a move that deals massive damage and, if hit consecutively, could freeze Lu Fan for a solid 30 seconds. And let's be real, getting frozen in place while a bunch of Yeetis are charging at you is not exactly how Lu Fan planned to spend his day. But our boy, ever prepared, fires up his big black bow, aiming squarely at the incoming ice blocks. As he unleashes multiple shots of red arrows, the spell smashes through the icy barrage, shattering each block. Yet despite his impressive display of power, the Yeetis are proving to be as stubborn as a kid, refusing to eat their veggies. Lu Fan, realizing that these creatures really need a lesson in humility, decides to up the ante. Because if there's one thing Lu Fan hates, it's monsters that don't know when to quit. He raises his bow above his head and unleashes a brand new move, the Shadow Serpent Arrow. 12 magic arrows spiral through the air, each dealing 20% damage. It's basically like sending out a dozen little reminders that messing with Lu Fan is a very bad idea. Not stopping there, Lu Fan summons his legendary Black Dragon and Star Dragon, commanding them to take care of all the fallen corpses in one swift blow. Because you've got dragons on standby, why not go full Game of Thrones on your enemies? But just as victory seems within reach, the monsters activate their Berserk state, boosting their attack power by 350% and their movement and casting speed by 100%. Clearly, these Yeetis skip the know when you're beat lesson. They also use Fallen Corpse Tide, which increases the defense of all the monsters by 25% for everyone present. Lu Fan is not exactly thrilled by the Yeetis' annoying Berserk skill. It's like when your favorite game suddenly hits you with an impossible level just when you're on a roll. Disgusted, he orders the Star Dragon to get ready and use its Shattered Star attack. The dragon, ever obedient, soars into the sky and summons a brilliant star from its claws. The Shattered Star attack is a massive area damage move, and its strength depends entirely on the dragon's power. And if there's one thing this dragon is, it's powerful. Think of it as sending a meteor to deal with a mosquito. As the Starlight Dragon prepares to unleash its deadly attack, a light bulb goes off in Lu Fan's head. He quickly calls the Star Dragon back like a chef who suddenly realized he's got the perfect secret ingredient to throw into the mix. Instead of letting the dragon handle the explosion, Lu Fan decides to take things into his own hands. Charging up his Serpent Shadow Arrow, he lets it draw power for a few seconds, knowing that with every moment, the damage multiplies. By the time he releases it, the damage boost is at a ridiculous 500%. The arrow grabs onto the Shattered Star, fusing the two attacks into one epic, boosted explosion that's sure to deal massive destruction. It's the kind of move that makes even the monsters pause and think, wait, maybe we made a mistake. Just before the massive explosion erupts, there's a grin on Lu Fan's face. He's just invented a new combo move, and nothing says goodbye Yeetis like a 500% boosted Shattered Star. A deafening boom echoes across the icy terrain, shaking the very ground beneath them. Even the griffins, normally sturdy in flight, are thrown off balance by the shockwave, causing all of Lu Fan's teammates to crash land onto the ice. It's the kind of explosion that makes you question your life choices, like why you didn't pack a parachute for griffin riding. As the scene shifts, the griffins are seen pulling each team member out of the ice with the help of their uniforms. The last one to be rescued is the captain, who was buried deep due to the sheer impact of the blast. As soon as he's pulled free, he gazes at the massive crater left behind by Lu Fan's devastating attack. It's the kind of crater that says, I'm not here to play, I'm here to rewrite geography. The captain finally grasps the full extent of a dragon tamer's true potential when combined with the raw power of the dragons. It's like watching someone use cheat codes in real life. Meanwhile, Lu Fan, ever the modest hero, praises both his legendary Black Dragon Lady and the Star Dragon, like a proud parent after a successful school play, but with more fire and destruction. He tells the tiny Star Dragon to rest, while commanding the Black Dragon Lady to check for any remaining fallen corpses. But before she can even take off, a griffin suddenly lands on the ice, and Lu Fan looks up to see the captain and his teammates all clearly in awe. It's the kind of entrance that says, we were worried about you, but also, please teach us how to make giant craters. The captain, still trying to process the massive crater left behind, asks if the explosion was caused by Lu Fan's attack. But before he can even finish his question, his eyes lock onto a beautiful lady standing quietly behind Lu Fan. Confused, he asks who she is. Lu Fan turns around, smiling slightly, and tells Xiao Ye to reveal her true form. Xiao Ye obeys, and in an instant, she transforms into her devastating, legendary black dragon form. It's the kind of transformation that says, "Surprise, I'm not just a pretty face. I'm a massive, fire-breathing powerhouse." As the majestic dragon takes to the sky, her presence is overwhelming, leaving everyone, including the captain, in stunned silence. Lu Fan casually orders her to clear the entire area of fallen corpses, and with a single command, she unleashes Cataclysm because, why clean up with a broom when you have a dragon that can obliterate everything? The griffins start screeching wildly at the sight of the dragon in action, while the rest of the squad watches in disbelief. Shen Kai, who had been so skeptical before, is now the most shocked, realizing that Lu Fan is no ordinary kid. Turns out he's not just a guy with cool toys. He's the dragon tamer everyone's been whispering about. Lu Fan, a bit surprised by how familiar everyone seems to be with his name, asks what's going on. The captain, shaking off his awe, explains that it's not just familiarity. Apparently, Lu Fan is practically a celebrity around here, thanks to the Duke's constant praise. Not only does Lu Fan have a legendary pet dragon, but he's also the top candidate in the Duke's eyes. It's like finding out you're the star student in the principal's secret fan club. Shen Kai, who usually couldn't care less about others, finally pieces together that the Duke didn't just let anyone into the 78th squad, he let a big shot join. It's like realizing you've been training with a secret superhero all along. Lu Chankong, always the jokester, teases Lu Fan, congratulating him for hiding his true strength the whole time. But Lu Fan, still a bit puzzled, feels like he's been holding the team back since he's unfamiliar with the area. He's thinking, wait, I've been playing catch-up, so why is everyone suddenly acting like I'm their hero? Just as he's trying to process this, the captain steps closer, telling him that he's trained plenty of impatient youngsters over the years, but none were as calm and responsible as Lu Fan. Basically, Lu Fan's getting the Best in Class award, and he didn't even know he was competing. The captain thanks him on behalf of the entire squad for saving them at such a critical moment, and even Shen Kai, who had been pretty skeptical before, agrees that she had underestimated Lu Fan. She's probably thinking, should have known anyone the Duke recommends isn't just your average rookie. Now it's clear to everyone that Lu Fan isn't just some new recruit. He's a big deal. Lu Changkong, with a grin that practically screams, "I knew it all along," says it must have been fate when he first met Lu Fan. Now he's planning to rely on Lu Fan to take care of him because, why not? Lu Fan just smiles at the team's sincerity, thanking everyone for their support. But before the moment can get too mushy, something even more impressive happens. The Black Dragon starts transforming into a more mystical form, causing everyone to stare wide-eyed like kids seeing a magic trick for the first time. It turns out she's been upgraded to level 30, and surprise, surprise, her contract with Lu Fan has ascended to Black Dragon 2. And with that, she's unlocked a shiny new skill named Perception. The Black Dragon 2 stage now comes with heightened awareness, allowing it to detect enemies even when they're hiding like cowards in stealth or disguise. When activated, this skill doesn't just spot those sneaky foes. It reveals all stealthy or disguised enemies in the area, basically turning Lu Fan's dragon into a walking anti-ninja radar. Now, anyone thinking they could pull off a sneaky attack near this dragon better reconsider their life choices. Naturally, everyone starts sneaking curious glances at the dragon, while Lu Changkong can't help but ask Lu Fan what in the world is happening. Lu Fan, staying cool like this happens every Tuesday, explains that the Dragon Lady has reached level 30 and her stats just got a serious boost. It's like she's gone through dragon puberty and hit a second-tier transformation. Her attributes are nearly maxed out, and her new perception skill means ambushes are a thing of the past. Even if high-level assassins come knocking, Lu Fan doesn't have to sweat it anymore. Suddenly, Lu Changkong remembers something. He points out that Lu Fan once said he couldn't ride the dragon because her level wasn't high enough. But before he can finish, Lu Fan, with a grin that practically says, "Hold my saddle," stops him mid-sentence. He materializes an epic-quality dragon saddle right there in front of everyone and declares that finally he's become a full-fledged dragon rider. This isn't just any ordinary saddle either. It has the ability to soar, meaning Lu Fan's about to level up his whole dragon game. Upon use, this pet can be ridden as a mount. In mounted mode, both the rider and the pet's attributes get a significant boost, and regular attacks become infused with dragon energy, turning them into ranged damage dealers with extra punch. Basically, Lu Fan and his dragon are about to become a flying, fire-breathing wrecking crew. The team watches in awe as Lu Fan prepares to take his rightful place as a true rider, like a knight who's just found the coolest ride in town. The legendary Black Dragon becomes engulfed in fierce flames, going through her second transformation, and down on the ground, everyone is staring up in awe. It's like watching a giant fireball taking shape in the sky, and even Lu Fan can't help but be impressed by the sheer intensity of the moment. His dragon, now looking more lethal than ever, has the presence of a creature that demands respect, majestic and terrifying all at once. Lu Fan realizes that his legendary black dragon has upgraded to a whole new level, reaching her second stage of transformation. Now she's not just powerful, she's a full-fledged adult dragon, with all the deadly grace and might that comes with it. Even the captain, who has seen his fair share of insane things, can't hide his surprise. It's like the dragon has gone from being super cool to how do we even handle this territory. The World Destroyer form of the Black Dragon has evolved, and Lu Fan stands there, feeling pretty proud of his flaming, superpowered dragon lady. The World Destroyer form of the Black Dragon has evolved, and Lu Fan stands there, feeling pretty proud of his flaming, superpowered dragon lady. Even the normally stoic captain can't help but be impressed. The captain, realizing that to ride such a legendary dragon, Lu Fan would need a special enough saddle, feels compelled to offer one himself. He's ready to hand it over, but Lu Fan, being the cheeky guy he is, stops him mid-offer and casually informs the group that he already has the perfect saddle for his ride. But the captain, not ready to back down, insists that their military saddle gives a 10% attribute boost, which is super rare. Even Shen starts pitching in, telling Lu Fan that 10% of a dragon's stats would make him feel like he's wielding pure power. But Lu Fan, ever the cool-headed rider, calmly explains that he can already superimpose 100% of the Black Dragon's attributes, and his attacks are infused with dragon energy. So as much as the captain's saddle sounds nice, Lu Fan's dragon control saddle is the one specially equipped for legendary dragons like his. Both the captain and Shen Kai are left stunned, realizing that Lu Fan is out here using 100% of his dragon's power like it's no big deal, while they're just hoping for a 10% boost. The lady, curious and clearly a bit envious, asks Lu Fan what kind of magical item this saddle could possibly be. Even Lu Changkong realizes that doubting Lu Fan at this point is pointless, because let's face it, our boy's got everything covered. Suddenly, the legendary Black Dragon lands gracefully on the ground, immediately licking her master's face with pure joy, showing just how pleased she is after leveling up. It's like watching a puppy, except this puppy is a massive, fire-breathing, world-destroying dragon. The captain, feeling a bit ashamed for recommending something as basic as a griffin saddle, now understands that Lu Fan's gear is on a completely different level. Even Shen Kai, who earlier thought Lu Fan was holding the team back, starts falling for him, realizing that this morning's assumptions were, well, wildly inaccurate. She starts daydreaming about having such high-level equipment herself, but the captain cuts in, reminding her, "Are you riding a dragon or a griffin?" You can almost hear the eye roll in his voice. Meanwhile, Lu Fan is busy thanking his black dragon for helping him through the toughest times of his career. He promises her that from now on, whenever they face danger, they'll tackle it together. As the captain and Shen bicker like an old married couple, Lu Changkong steps in, telling them to shut up and just witness the birth of the world's first true dragon rider. It's a moment so epic, even the bickering stops, which is basically a miracle in itself. As soon as the legendary Black Dragon is equipped with the dragon's saddle and Lu Fan leaps onto her back, he feels an overwhelming surge of power, like he could destroy the world with just a casual wave of his hand. The dragon saddle isn't just a seat. It's a direct link to the power of the Dragon Clan, boosting all of Lu Fan's attributes to ridiculous levels. On top of that, now his normal attacks are accompanied by dragon energy, allowing him to deal long-range damage like a pro gamer who's unlocked cheat mode. The captain stands there, mouth slightly agape, watching the world's first real dragon knight in action. Even Lu Changkong, who had already suspected Lu Fan was stronger than him after that rescue, is now completely floored. Watching the massive gap in their abilities with his own eyes, he can't help but feel like a side character in his own story. As a knight, Lu Changkong has spent 10 years building up his strength, joining the Griffin Regiment and taking pride in his achievements. But now, seeing Lu Fan's rise to Dragon Knight status, his once proud accomplishments feel about as solid as wet paper. It's the kind of moment that makes him rethink all his life choices, as if all his hard-earned success has been shattered into pieces, and Lu Fan's just casually holding the glue bottle, not even noticing. As Lu Fan settles into the saddle of a legendary Black Dragon, takes off with her massive, fierce wings, cutting through the air with a majestic grace that leaves everyone watching in awe. But this isn't a joyride. Something serious is going on. The dragon isn't flying just for the thrill of it. She senses imminent danger. Realizing this, Lu Fan commands her to activate perception, and suddenly her eyes begin to glow as she starts detecting enemies hidden in camouflage. In no time, the dragon reveals the stealthy presence of enemies lurking nearby. Meanwhile, the Griffin squad is trailing behind, wondering what kind of terrifying creatures might be creeping around in the shadows. The captain, wide-eyed, shouts in surprise as he recognizes the creatures. They're snow moths, an extremely dangerous species that's so lethal, the captain immediately orders everyone to keep their distance. These moths don't play around. They hide in the snow and wind, completely invisible until it's too late. Once they lash onto a target, they start sucking blood at an alarming rate, draining 10% of the victim's health per second. It's like nature's version of a vampire mosquito on steroids. The captain yells out to Lu Fan, warning him to steer clear of these terrifying little monsters. But, of course, Lu Fan, ever the fearless one, along with his dragon, are already locked and loaded, ready to take on these lethal pests with all the speed and precision they've got. Because why just run from danger when you can barrel straight toward it with a dragon and a smile? Lu Fan is buzzing with excitement, finally getting the fight he's been craving for so long. He orders the legendary Black Dragon to synchronize with him, using the same attacks so their Dragon Clan attributes perfectly align. It's like they're in a deadly dance, moving in sync to obliterate everything in their path. Lu Fan uses his triple blade strike, slicing through the snow moths like they're nothing more than paper targets at a carnival booth. Lu Changkong, watching all this unfold, can't help but look like his brain's about to short-circuit. The snow moths have been a nightmare for the Griffin Regiment, yet here's Lu Fan, treating them like they're nothing but bothersome flies at a picnic. The lady, meanwhile, starts getting a little too relaxed, thinking that with Lu Fan around, there's no need to worry about these pesky moths. Of course, this is exactly when reality smacks her in the face. The captain, who's definitely seen more than enough surprises for one day, snaps her out of it, telling her to quit daydreaming and actually pay attention. But it's too late. Her carelessness invites an ambush from the snow moths. Before she can even scream, Lu Fan, with that signature calm smirk of his, unleashes the legendary Black Dragon's fiery breath, burning the moths to a crisp midair. They don't even stand a chance, incinerated from meters away like they've just entered the world's worst bug zapper. As the legendary Black Dragon continues using perception and blasting fireballs left and right, Lu Fan warns the team to stay alert. Thanks to the dragon's keen sight, the snow moths can no longer hide in stealth, and now it's a full-on extermination. Lu Fan is practically having the time of his life, while the others are just trying to keep up. It's like watching a pro gamer stomp news in a video game, except the stakes are life and death. Sometime later, Lu Fan and his legendary Black Dragon land gracefully on the ground, announcing to the Griffin squad that the last of the pesky snow moths has been dealt with. Lu Changkong, clearly impressed, walks over and thanks Lu Fan for saving him. Yet again, he tells the captain that with the dragon's perception skill and Lu Fan's smooth synergy, they've got nothing to fear from monsters anymore. Of course, the lady isn't having any of it. She scolds Lu Changkong, telling him to stop acting like a clueless senior and actually be useful for once. She adds that if he keeps needing to be saved, Lu Fan might as well be his personal knight instead of a dragon rider. She's determined to see him do some work instead of relying on Lu Fan every time something goes wrong. Lu Fan, unfazed as always, informs the group that now that he can fly with his dragon, even a blizzard wouldn't be an issue. The whole Griffin squad can continue with the exploration mission without breaking a sweat, but the captain, ever the cautious one, isn't so easily convinced. He reminds Lu Fan that while he's fully capable, he shouldn't take unnecessary risks. The captain then looks up at the sky, noticing the ominous silence, and warns that the snowstorm may hit much earlier than expected. If it comes tomorrow, as he suspects, they won't even have time to return to camp. Lu Fan considers this, but deep down you can tell he's thinking, blizzard or no blizzard, this dragon's not afraid of a little snow. After hearing everything, Shen Kaz's worry deepens and the captain hesitates. He doesn't want to risk exploring the snowstorm with a wounded team member. But Lu Fan, ever the optimist, assures everyone that the high-risk snow moths are no longer a threat, even in the storm. In fact, he sees the blizzard and the ferocious beasts as the perfect opportunity for everyone to rack up some military merit. With a confident grin, Lu Fan extends his hand toward the group, promising them that he's not here to gamble with their lives and he's absolutely confident he can lead the Griffin squad safely through the storm. The captain blinks a few times, probably questioning all of his life decisions that led him to this moment. But after a dramatic pause and maybe a tiny internal meltdown, he grabs Lu Fan's hand like a man who's just been promised a free vacation, realizing that with Lu Fan and let's not forget the giant fire-breathing dragon, they'd got a decent shot. The whole squad suddenly looks inspired because if there's anyone who can turn a snowstorm into a fun little weekend adventure, it's the guy with a dragon that could probably roast marshmallows from space. Lu Fan continues hacking and slashing his way through the swarm of cute but deadly snow moths and finally stumbles upon the unmelting ice, the one precious item his senior sister had been wanting for ages. It's like stumbling across a rare Pokemon, except this one won't melt in your hand, no matter how hot things get. Lu Fan smiles, feeling a bit like an extreme North treasure hunter, and turns around, waving at his squad to join him. The whole Griffin squad shows up behind him, probably wondering if this was just a glorified shopping trip. Shen Kai, ever the voice of reality check, comments how the snow moths are like earthworms after the rain when a blizzard hits. She's not wrong, except these worms have wings and a thirst for blood. Even the captain can't help but be impressed by Lu Fan's handiwork, noting that our boy must have taken down at least a few thousand of the beasts. But Lu Fan, being the humble guy he is, shrugs and mentions that while he's not sure about the count, his hand has definitely gone numb from all the action. Because nothing says successful mission like a good case of sword-arm cramp. Meanwhile, Lu Changkong, clearly inspired by Lu Fan's beast-slaying spree, sarcastically comments that if he were a level 32 dragon rider, he'd just wipe out the whole blizzard with one big move and bag himself a shiny gold badge. You know, the kind only elite heroes get, not the kind you find in a cereal box. But before Lu Changkong can finish his sentence, Shen Kai slams him on the head, reminding him that he's not Lu Fan and that he's usually the one whining for the captain to come save him from danger. The squad laughs, but you can tell Lu Changkong is secretly plotting how to score some hero points next time, or at least how to avoid more head slams, because nobody likes being the team's comic relief forever. The captain, ever the practical one, notices that they've completed their mission of advancing 100 miles into the unexplored region. With supplies running low and the team exhausted from battling ferocious snow moths and maybe each other, he suggests it's time to head back to the barracks. Even Lu Changkong and Shen Kai, who normally try to tough it out, look like they could use a nap. After all, 3 or 4 days without proper rest would make anyone feel like a zombie. The moment the word rest is mentioned, the legendary black dragon shifts back into her beautiful human form, letting out an adorable cry, the universal dragon code for feed me. Lu Fan, hearing her hungry whimpers, immediately realizes that his dragon lady has been cold and starving for far too long. Even dragons need their beauty, sleep, and snacks after all. Agreeing with his dragon's plea, Lu Fan tells the team they should head back and replenish her health, because let's be honest, a hangry dragon is the last thing anyone needs right now. As they start preparing to return, the captain orders Shen to set the landmark signal for their return journey. Meanwhile, Lu Changkong can't help but notice just how good Lu Fan is to his dragon. It's like watching someone pamper their beloved pet, while Shen Kai, on the other hand, couldn't care less about her giant eagle, which looks like it hasn't seen food in days. The poor bird seems to slump even lower in sadness, probably wondering what it did to deserve such neglect. But, as usual, Shen Kai brushes it off like it's no big deal, telling Lu Changkong not to worry about it, because clearly eagle feelings are not a priority here. Shen Kai whips out a giant red rod from her inventory and slams it into the ground with the kind of flare you'd expect from someone who's been through this rodeo before. As it starts glowing ominously, 2 red beams of light circle around from the marker, giving off that serious business vibe. This is the landmark signal, a crucial tool for their exploration tasks in the extreme north region. Specifically, it's a must-have for the Griffin squad to transmit their exact location back to the camp server. Like the world's most hardcore GPS, but with way more danger. Lu Fan, naturally curious, wonders aloud about the giant rod's purpose, to which the captain explains that the landmark signal is used to mark their current location. Whenever the weather clears up enough, a construction team will come in to set up a temporary outpost, allowing them to push further into the unexplored lands, kind of like setting up camp, but with way more monsters and way less marshmallows. As soon as the landmark signal is activated, something strange happens. All the griffins and even the dragon lady take off toward the barracks on their own, like they got an autopilot feature no one knew about. From a distance, a skeletal griffin and a hooded figure, the crimson red eyes, watch them leave from another red marker. Because nothing says friendly neighborhood watcher like glowing evil eyes. Their attention seems sinister, a sure sign that trouble's lurking. The next day, back at the extreme north region barracks, the captain tells everyone to get some well-deserved rest. After all, they've just survived moth monsters and Yeetus. They've earned a nap. Meanwhile, he'll go report everything to the Duke himself, because what's an epic adventure without some paperwork? After the team's dismissal, Lu Fan dashes towards Shen, clearly on a mission, asking her if she knows anyone at the barracks who can work with unmelting ice. With a sly smile, Shen mentions the blacksmith at the supply office, saying he has decent skills and can handle the job. But before Lu Fan can thank her properly, Shen couldn't resist teasing him, asking if he was planning to gift the unmelting ice to his girlfriend. Lu Fan, now blushing furiously, denies it immediately, claiming that his senior is just a regular friend. Cue the classic awkward blush as Shen continues to smirk, clearly not buying it. She tells him there's no need to explain, but our boy's already in full panic mode. He starts running away at full speed with the dragon lady and Tao, as if sprinting might save him from further embarrassment. He calls back to Shen, saying he's off to find the blacksmith and promises the dragon lady some delicious meat to make up for her hard work. Because nothing says sorry like a steak dinner for your dragon. As Lu Fan disappears into the distance, Shen's playful demeanor suddenly shifts. She becomes serious, her hand drifting to her chest, pulling out a small pendant made of unmelting ice. She kisses the pendant gently, her expression softening. Clearly, the pendant holds deep meaning, perhaps a gift from someone special, because even warriors of the extreme north have a soft side. At the blacksmith's shop in the supply office, a large blacksmith with arms that could probably crush boulders reassures Lu Fan that in just 2 days, he'll have a gift that will make any girl swoon. Because clearly, if anyone knows romance, it's a blacksmith. Lu Fan smiles, thanking the man for his craftsmanship. But just as he's about to leave, he feels a firm tap on his shoulder. Turning around, our boy sees none other than the Duke, looking a bit frazzled from what was probably an exhausting game of Where's Lu Fan? Around the barracks. Honestly, this guy could probably use a map and a snack. The Duke, still catching his breath, tells Lu Fan that the captain had reported everything back to him, how Lu Fan not only survived but led the team like some sort of heroic fantasy protagonist. Apparently, the Duke had expected Lu Fan to freeze out there in the snowstorm because, that's usually what happens when you throw a rookie into a blizzard with monsters. But nope, Lu Fan just went full Dragon Master on everyone. The Duke admits he may have slightly underestimated our boy, probably expecting him to be a popsicle by now. But instead, Lu Fan saved the day. And because of his outstanding performance, which might as well translate to "you didn't die, congrats." The captain gave him a bronze badge, the same one that Captain Lu Fei wears. Now this isn't just any bronze badge. Oh no, this is the kind of badge that says, hey, I'm in charge now. Lu Fan, still processing the fact that he now holds a captain's badge, realizes that he's officially a captain himself. Because, let's be real, this is the fastest career climb in the history of dragon tamers. One day you're hacking at moths, the next you're the boss. Move over corporate world, Lu Fan showing how it's done. The Duke, with a grave look, starts explaining to Lu Fan that all the griffins from the squad had been found by other teams. But there's a catch. They had been turned into zombies, so the team had to do what teams do in exploration missions, kill their once feathery, now very undead companions. Because in the world of exploration, zombie cleanup is basically a regular Tuesday. Luckily for Lu Fan, his beloved dragon lady wasn't affected by the Blood Moon's mind control. The captain, still impressed by how Lu Fan and his dragon coordinated like they were starring in some epic battle symphony, says he wants to witness it firsthand. Lu Fan, however, is deep in thought, realizing that the closer they get to the Blood Moon, the more creatures turn into undead monstrosities, like a really bad Halloween party. The only creatures that remain unaffected are Shen Kei's giant eagle, and of course his legendary black dragon lady, because apparently even mind control can't mess with her. The Duke, however, isn't done. He continues, pointing out that when he saw Lu Fan's dragon eating like a starved medieval king, he knew she was something special. Probably thinking, you've got a powerful dragon when her appetite rivals a buffet champion. Even Lu Fan realizes that his legendary black dragon has never been this hungry before. Maybe she's been hanging around humans too long and picked up a little gluttony on the side. The Duke, who had been chuckling about starved medieval kings just moments ago, suddenly turns serious. It's the kind of serious that makes you feel like you're about to be let in on a secret that could either blow your mind or send you running for the hills. He tells Lu Fan that there are some things he needs to show him. No jokes this time. He hands over some confidential documents, and as Lu Fan reads through them, his eyes widen like he just found out dragons have a frequent flyer program. The documents reveal pictures of a giant creature, and we're talking seriously giant, with what might be hands or maybe wings. It's not clear, but one thing's for sure. This thing's huge. The Duke explains that the national trial representative of the Star-Spangled Nation, a guy named Charles Morgan, was responsible for exploring the secret mountain ruins on the border of their country. And after some friendly chats with the Morgan family, they managed to get hold of these chilling photos. Lu Fan stares at the pictures, realizing that this massive humanoid skeleton looks an awful lot like the giant creature from the Blood Moon. It's like déjà vu, except with more bone and terror. The Duke, now in full-on ominous mode, confirms that this skeleton was so massive, it made the excavation workers in the photo look like ants. The Duke doesn't waste a second, asking Lu Fan to follow him like they're about to uncover the next big conspiracy theory. He reveals that there's more, a video. His intelligence personnel somehow infiltrated the Morgan family and filmed at the sacred mountain ruins. It's the kind of video that could blow the lid off something huge, like the time you accidentally discover that your grandma's secret cookie recipe is just store-bought dough. The video shows a humanoid structure looming in the distance. An old man who looks like a butler and a woman arrive, staring up at the massive humanoid skeleton structure with jaws practically hitting the ground. At a distance, they spot a large temple, and both of them are in disbelief that Charles somehow managed to get inside of it. The old butler explains to the woman that there was even a fourth evolved professional in the expedition team sent to investigate the temple. But plot twist, a whole team has lost contact and is nowhere to be found. Because, of course, it wouldn't be a proper mystery without people vanishing. The woman, now feeling the weight of every horror movie she's ever watched, notices a creepy golden light from the temple, which is somehow turning nearby creatures into mutated, more powerful beasts. It's like nature hit the upgrade button, and not in a good way. Suddenly, the butler hears footsteps and both of them freeze. The woman turns around and immediately recognizes the approaching figure. It's the fourth evolved professional from the expedition team. But instead of relief, she's thinking, wait, why is he the only one who came back? The old butler in the video suddenly realizes that the returning man from the expedition is definitely not okay. His wings are covered in blood stains like someone forgot to clean up after a bad party. Without any delay, the wingman goes into full attack mode, launching himself at the woman and the butler. The butler, clearly not getting paid enough for this, screams at the woman to run for her life, shouting that the man has become a holy mountain thrall. The Duke says that the video ends here. He adds, in a tone that suggests he's narrating a calm afternoon stroll rather than a near-death experience, that fortunately, his informants managed to escape, which is why they even have this footage in the first place. Lu Fan is trying to wrap his head around what exactly a holy mountain thrall is. He turns to the Duke, and the old man explains with the calmness of someone discussing the weather that a holy mountain thrall is a creature mutated by the eerie powers of the giant skeleton and the temple, much like the holy mountain puppet, only worse. It's like the puppet decided to level up, but in the worst possible way. Lu Fan's eyes widen as he connects the dots. It's eerily similar to the fallen corpses he faced, created by the Blood Moon. The realization hits him like a ton of bricks. These things have altered everything around them, and they seem to be waking up. The Duke, after taking a hearty swig from his flask, because what's a deep existential crisis without a drink, informs Lu Fan that this important discovery and the eerie video have already been sent to the senior scholars of the Academy. These scholars, in their infinite wisdom or lack thereof, speculated that there's far more to these two mysterious beings than meets the eye. Their existence is too ancient to trace, and in modern times are called the ancient gods. At this point, Lu Fan's thought train is picking up steam, wondering, where did the skeleton come from? Why did it fall into their world? What kind of power did it hold? What could he even do? None of these were clear of calling a god. Lu Fan thinks that might be stretching it a bit, but just as he's about to spiral into overthinking, the Duke, ever the expert at derailing thought trains, chimes in, guzzling more booze, and casually drops the bombshell. Nothing about the ancient gods is known. He says it with the ease of someone brushing off a mild inconvenience, but it's clear this unknown is a real headache for him. He adds that this recent discovery is like uncovering a tiny corner of the world's biggest secret, which is probably why the Duke is drinking like it's the end of the world, because in their case, it just might be. The Duke continues, explaining that the monsters corrupted by the Holy Mountain are divided into puppets and thralls, while those transformed by the Blood Moon follow a similar pattern. Before he can wrap up his lecture, Lu Fan cuts him off. They aren't just fallen corpses, right? There must be puppet fallen corpses and thrall fallen corpses too. The Duke gives him a look that says, finally catching on, huh? He nods, warning both Lu Fan and the captain need to stay on their toes, because while they've mostly been dealing with the zombie puppets, the walking dead with all the brain power of a soggy biscuit, there's a much bigger, badder fish lurking in the shadows, the corpse thrall. And that guy's basically the final boss that no one signed up for, but everyone will wish they had a cheat code to defeat. Lu Fan, ever the curious soul, presses the Duke, eager to know what happened after that Holy Mountain thrall went all slasher movie on the Morgan family. The Duke, clearly relishing in the drama of it all, explains that the thrall didn't just casually stroll through the ruins. It killed off every single Morgan family member present. It's the kind of family reunion no one survives. Charles, the representative of the Star-Spangled Kingdom for the Trials of Nations, was the only one the thrall spared. Because apparently if you're going to be spared by a monstrous undead creature, you better have a fancy title. The Duke leans in, sharing the juicy details. After the intelligence personnel barely managed to escape the massacre, they stealthily followed the Holy Mountain thrall. What they witnessed next was the stuff of nightmares and the weirdest diplomacy meeting ever. The thrall, this hulking, terrifying creature of death, didn't attack Charles Morgan when they met in front of the ancient temple. Nope, not at all. Instead, they had a nice little exchange like two old pals catching up over tea, except, one's a flesh-rotting monstrosity. The Duke reveals the kicker. The thrall didn't just spare Charles, it gave him something. And no, it wasn't a thank you card or a fruit basket. It handed him something called the essence of the holy mountain. Lu Fan feels a jolt of surprise when he hears the name of a new item, his mind spinning with curiosity. The Duke, ever the patient one, goes on to explain that Charles, already annoyingly strong as a combat priest, had managed to snag essence of the holy mountain. This fancy essence had allowed Charles to switch his profession into something brand new, a super secret, no one's ever heard of it before profession, a holy priest. Of course, there were no records of this new job description anywhere, because why make things easy? The Duke's agents had tried digging up more dirt on Charles, but the Morgan family, who apparently runs their security like a medieval Fort Knox, was now so heavily guarded that no more information could slip through. Frustrated, the Duke warns Lu Fan to watch out for Charles during the kingdom's trial, because Charles now seems to be buddy-buddy with the power of the ancient gods. Great. The Duke is convinced that Charles will be Lu Fan's toughest competition. But our boy? Oh no, Lu Fan waves this off like he's brushing off a bad haircut. He confidently reassures the old man that toughest opponent is just another label. In Lu Fan's mind, no matter what sort of divine cheat codes Charles might have, he's absolutely positive he's walking away with a gold medal. 2 days later, inside the bustling blacksmith shop, the burly blacksmith eyes Lu Fan with anticipation, asking if he's satisfied with the piece. Lu Fan, grinning like a kid who just found extra fries at the bottom of the bag, is thrilled as he examines the necklace. He assures the blacksmith that the craftsmanship is absolutely top-notch, a true masterpiece. Feeling grateful, Lu Fan pulls out the good stuff, the same strong drink that the Duke himself enjoys, and offers it to the blacksmith. He tells the man to take it as a token of appreciation for all the hard work he's put in over the past 2 days. The blacksmith's eyes light up like he's just been handed the keys to the candy store, thrilled that Lu Fan not only appreciated his craft but also knew how to treat a man right. Just as the blacksmith is about to bask in the glory of the moment, Lu Changkong and Shen Kai, the ever-adventurous and slightly reckless duo, suddenly pop up behind Lu Fan. They casually mention that they've got a new exploration mission, and it's time to gear up. Looks like there's no rest for the wicked or for Lu Fan, for that matter. Lu Fan bids farewell to the blacksmith, who, with a hearty grin, tells him to drop by any time he needs more work done. It's like the guy's already picturing Lu Fan as his new favorite customer. As Lu Fan joins the rest of the group, Lu Changkong's jaw practically hits the ground when he spots the copper badge on Lu Fan's uniform. He can't believe it. He's been grinding away day and night for a whole year, and here's Lu Fan, barely around for a few days, already promoted to superior. Even a usually cool-headed lady, Shen Kai, can't wrap her head around it. It's like the universe just fast-tracked him for VIP status, she thinks, as she struggles to believe Lu Fan's sudden rise through the ranks. Fast forward to the early hours of the next morning, Captain Lu Fei gathers everyone near the outpost. He cheerfully announces they packed enough supplies to last for 15 days, meaning they're planning to explore deeper than ever. Everything seems to be going smoothly, that is until Lu Fan, while casually flying overhead like it's just another Tuesday, notices something strange. Wait a minute, where's the signal? The marker they left last time is nowhere to be found. Now things are starting to get weird. Lu Fan knows one thing for sure. This trip just took a turn for the mysterious. But then Shen Kai, with her sharp eyes, spots the red rod just a few blocks away. She figures it might have been blown off course by the recent snowstorm, but something feels off. The rod, now damaged after just 2 days, shouldn't have fallen apart this easily. It wasn't made of cheap materials after all. Even the knockoff stuff from the bargain bin wouldn't fall apart this fast. Lu Fan, sensing the eerie stillness around them, starts to get suspicious. The only sounds are the howling wind and the crunch of snow underfoot. It's way too quiet, like one of those moments in a horror movie where you just know the monster's about to jump out. He can't shake the feeling that a horde of creatures is lying in wait, ready to pounce the moment they get too close to the rod. Just as Lu Changkong calls for the group to kick off the mission, Lu Fan, heart racing, yells at the Lu Changkong and the rest to fall back. He's not about to let them walk into a trap like a group of oblivious tourists on their first adventure. Something smells fishy, and it's not the snow. But it's too late. Lu Changkong is already within range of the lurking monsters. As he turns to glance at Lu Fan, it's as if the world slows down. Cue the dramatic zoom in because a swarm of monsters is practically holding a welcome party for this idiot, just waiting for him to take that one fateful step. Lu Changkong quickly scans the area, his eyes widening as he realizes they're completely surrounded by the creatures. Things just went from bad to we're really in trouble now real fast. They stand there completely baffled, trying to figure out what an outrageous number of monsters is doing in the middle of a snowstorm. After all, our boy Lu Fan cleared out all the monsters last time like a hero on a monster-slaying mission. Yet here they are, a whole army, just watching the humans with a strange eagerness. But none of the creatures make the first move to attack. Lu Fan, always quick to piece things together, tells the captain right away that these monsters are nothing but puppets and somewhere out there, a higher-level thrall is secretly pulling the strings. The captain, caught off guard, looks shocked. He remembers the Duke's warning about thralls. The Duke sure has a way of keeping things exciting. Just then, a rough, dark voice pierces through the wind, saying that being a thrall is nothing to be ashamed of, because the fallen thralls are the glorious thralls of God. A title that sounds way too fancy for a bunch of creepy puppets. They all turn to see a pale humanoid figure dressed in the same uniform as their squad. Lu Changcom, never one to keep quiet, starts yelling at the figure, demanding to know who he is. "Come on, speak up," he shouts, but before the mysterious figure can answer, Captain Luffy and Shen Kai realize the truth. That's no stranger, it's their former teammate Lai Lu, a hidden-class spear knight. Well, this just went from bad to this is not what we signed up for real fast. The group stands frozen in shock. It's the kind of reveal that feels almost theatrical, like something out of a long-lost tale. Shen Kai, usually so composed, is overwhelmed by emotion. Tears stream down her face as she struggles to come to terms with what she's seeing. It's as if the sight of him has opened some emotional floodgates she didn't know were there. Meanwhile, Lai Lu takes in their reactions with a calm demeanor, almost nonchalant, as if this reunion were just a chance encounter, rather than the strange, intense situation it is. He acknowledges the group, giving the impression that he's been gone far too long, yet remains unbothered by the shock on their faces. Lu Fan observes the scene with growing curiosity. Everyone seems to be reacting with a mix of disbelief and sadness, as if they're seeing a ghost from their past, one that they never expected to cross paths with again. Lu Fan turns to Captain Lu Fei, curious about the strange man standing before them, and asks if he knows him. The captain, his usual lighthearted demeanor gone, responds with a serious nod. He explains that the man is none other than Lai Lu, once the silver insignia officer of the Griffin Regiment. Lai Lu wasn't just any officer. He was also Shen Kai's fiancé. When Shen Kai first joined the regiment, it was Lai Lu who brought her in. After their engagement, Lai Lu disappeared during a mission to investigate the Blood Moon, and now, as fate would have it, he's shown up again, except as a fallen corpse. Not exactly how you expect a reunion to go. Lu Changcom, never one for long emotional speeches, looks like he's about to lose it and snaps that now really isn't the time for chit-chat, because apparently talking about undead ex-fiancés during a potential ambush is frowned upon. Meanwhile, Shen Kai is spiraling. Her once stoic composure crumbles as she sees the man she thought she lost forever standing there, undead. She drops to the ground, crying her heart out, and Lu Fan can't help but feel terrible for her. Great, he thinks. Monsters, tears, and now an emotional breakdown. This day just keeps getting better. Shen Kai, through her sobs, begins calling out for Lai Lu, asking why he hasn't come back to her, her words becoming more desperate. As if things weren't already emotional enough, she starts feeling like someone is standing right in front of her, whispering back. When she finally looks up, her eyes widen. It's Lai Lu standing there in his normal, not-so-undead form. Cue the dramatic music, because this is the kind of plot twist that makes you question reality. Lai Lu, ever so calmly, tells her he's finally found her, like he's just returning from a casual trip and not, a dramatic undead reappearance. Shen Kai, at this point, completely loses her patience and flings herself into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. She hugs him tightly, her tears soaking his armor, unable to believe it's really him. Lu Fan, standing off to the side, watches the whole scene unfold and can't help but think, so, do we clap or something? Shen Kai, between sobs, keeps muttering how no one will believe this, that everyone will be so happy to know he's still alive, because clearly coming back from the dead is the ultimate surprise party trick. The emotional reunion, complete with tears, confusion, and a hefty dose of disbelief, feels like it belongs in some dramatic romance novel. Lu Fan just hopes the monsters are enjoying the show as much as he is. Suddenly, a surge of demonic energy erupts behind Lai Lu, crackling in the air like the world's worst party crasher. His voice turns cold as he declares that he's not going back. He then turns to Shen Kai, his expression unreadable, and asks if she will stay with him. Shen Kai, completely caught off guard by this unexpected plot twist, stares at him in shock, as if she's been handed the wrong script. Before she can even process what's happening, Lai Lu pulls Shen Kai closer, starting his "join me or else" monologue, as though he's trying to convince her they should stay and serve some mysterious god who's apparently about to wake up. Because nothing says romantic reunion like roping your fiancé into some ancient deity revival scheme. Hearing this, Shen Kai's face drains of color. Her voice trembles as she tries to grasp what Lai Lu is even planning, but fear grips her. Poor Shen Kai slips unconsciously, unable to handle the emotional roller coaster. Lu Fan sits her on his lap and frantically tries to bring her back to consciousness, as if patting someone on the back ever solved this kind of supernatural mess. Lu Fan, now shouting like a concerned sibling who just walked in on the strangest family argument, desperately calls out to Shen Kai. He yells for her to snap out of it, practically begging her to come back to her senses. But Lai Lu, clearly committed to his newfound dark side, cuts in with his final offer. He promises unimaginable power, the essence of a god, and the chance to become a servant of divine glory, because who could resist a pitch like that? He vows that if they listen to him, they can dedicate everything to the resurrection of this mysterious god. Lu Fan is still desperately trying to snap Shen Kai out of her dazed state, his voice urgent as he pleads with her. He tells her not to listen to Lai Lu, reminding her that she's only getting confused by his twisted words. It's the classic snap out of it moment, but with a lot more monsters involved. He warns her that if she doesn't come to her senses, there will only be one result, something far worse than she could imagine. Shen Kai, still in a state of confusion, mumbles repeatedly, as if she's caught in a loop, telling Lai Lu not to do this and not to do that. It's like trying to reason with a friend who's about to make a terrible life choice, but with extra drama and undead threats. Lai Lu, not one to back down, lays out the grim reality. If Shen Kai doesn't listen to him, she'll be torn to pieces by the puppets of the fallen corpses and will end up becoming one herself, because apparently that's his idea of persuasive motivational speaking. Lu Fan, sensing the rising danger, shouts even louder, urging Shen Kai to snap out of it before it's too late. His persistence finally pays off, and after what feels like an eternity, he manages to bring her back to her senses. Shen Kai regains consciousness, but panic quickly sets in. She barely has a moment to process what's happening, the chaos around her making it impossible to think clearly. Lu Fan rushes to explain, trying to ground her back into reality. He tells her to snap out of it, reminding her that she's been tricked and confused by Lai Lu's words. Meanwhile, Lai Lu, unfazed by the tension, mounts his horse and demands an answer. He wants to know if Shen Kai will stay with him and serve the god alongside him or not. It's like a bad marriage proposal, but with more undead consequences. The captain, finally fed up with Lai Lu's dramatic theatrics, loses his temper. Lai Lu's not just asking for commitment, he's trying to kidnap her for some dark cult. The captain turns to Lu Fan, eyes blazing, and says they can't let Lai Lu take Shen Kai away. They're surrounded by fallen bodies, and the situation is spiraling fast. He asks Lu Fan with urgency if he can save her, because of course, when all else fails, leave it to Lu Fan to fix the day. Lu Fan stands there, staring intensely, deep in thought as he considers his next move. He silently debates which power to use, weighing his options. Lu Changkong, noticing Lu Fan's serious expression, turns to Captain Lu Fei and speaks up, pointing out the rather inconvenient fact that they're surrounded by hundreds of monsters. Because who doesn't love being stuck in a monster mosh pit? He warns that if they chase after Lu Fan, they'll only get separated, and without repairing the signal post, finding their way back will be impossible next time. Captain Lu Fei, ever the practical one, dismisses the concern about the post. He decides that survival is their new priority, suggesting they should just run for their lives. It's one of those rare moments when the captain sounds like he's about to bolt like he's in a marathon. But just then, a smile creeps onto Lu Fan's face as a plan forms in his mind. You know things are about to get wild when Lu Fan starts smiling in the middle of chaos. He calmly says he doesn't think running away is the best idea. His confidence instantly grabs everyone's attention, and they all turn to him wondering what he has up his sleeve. Without hesitation, Lu Fan raises his hand, and an intense energy begins to surge from his palm. Cue the dramatic wind effects and glowing hands, because things are about to get flashy. Lu Changkong, realizing what's coming, shouts at him in a panic, asking if he's planning another massacre. Because of course, with Lu Fan, massacre is a valid guess. Our hero, not one to shy away from theatrics, confirms with a grin that Lu Changkong is absolutely right. It's like Lu Fan's response is, yeah, I'm about to do something big, watch this. In the same moment, Lu Fan reveals his divine bow, its appearance practically radiating power. He declares that since they've been granted military capabilities, there's no point in holding back. Because really, when you've got a divine weapon, why not go all out? Lai Lu, receiving no answer, narrows his eyes and finally speaks, understanding the silence. He realizes their refusal is his answer. With a grim shake of his head, he declares that the consequence of rejecting God is death, because apparently, when you're dealing with dark powers, they don't believe in second chances. At that moment, he commands all the animals under his control to attack, ordering them to kill the group and turn them into puppets. The monsters, eyes gleaming with malice, rush toward Lu Fan and the others, their screams filling the air. But Lu Fan, always cool under pressure, quickly activates his Shadow Serpent arrow and orders Lu Changkong to prepare the sanctuary's shield. Without hesitation, Lu Changkong acknowledges the command, activating the protective barrier. It's a moment of pure teamwork, like an action movie, but with magic shields and a lot more drama. The sanctuary shield, glowing with power, wraps around the group, absorbing damage equal to 200% of Lu Changkong's maximum HP, but it only lasts for 10 seconds. Lu Fan smiles confidently, extending his hand toward Lu Changkong. You don't have to do anything more, he assures him, because apparently when you're Lu Fan, saving the day is a solo mission. He draws his bow, aiming directly at Lai Luo, and charges the Shadow Serpent arrow. The air hums with power as the arrow begins to form. A deadly black serpent coiling in the air, its power increasing by 500%. After 3 seconds, Lu Fan releases the arrow, sending the black snake hissing through the air toward Lai Luo. Lu Changkong, watching in disbelief, can't help but ask, "What do you mean you're not going to do anything else?" He reminds Lu Fan that his sanctuary shield only lasts for 10 seconds, like he's hoping that this minor detail might change Lu Fan's mind. But Lu Fan, as confident as ever, just smiles and tells him, "Trust me, 10 seconds is enough. Because when you're dealing with magic and monsters, why not add a little suspense?" The countdown begins, -9 seconds left on the sanctuary shield. Lai Luo, watching the deadly black snake hurtling toward him, is visibly shaken. Apparently, he wasn't expecting this much fight from our boy. Meanwhile, the shield's time is ticking down, -8 seconds left. With perfect timing, Lu Fan calls out to Xiao Ye, the legendary black dragon, summoning her to reveal her true form, the Dragon of Destruction. The air vibrates with a new intensity as Xiao Ye, responding to the call, transforms into her destructive form. Flames swirl around Xiao Ye as she emerges in front of Lai Luo, her massive form looming with an aura of pure destruction. With only 6 seconds left on the sanctuary shield, she lets out a roar so powerful that it's probably the kind of sound that could make even the bravest warrior question all their life decisions. Captain Lu Fi, watching in awe and disbelief, shouts out that they're placing all their trust in Lu Fan. Because really, what choice do they have at this point? With only 5 seconds left, the pressure is mounting. Lu Fan instructs Xiao Ye to attack in sync with him. Lu Changkong and Shen Kai quickly move Captain Lu Fei to safety on the other side. The shield's countdown continues, -4 seconds left. Meanwhile, Lu Fan unleashes his signature move, Cut the Sky, a devastating technique that infuses his strikes with dragon energy. With one fluid motion, he delivers 2 consecutive strikes, each powered by the full force of the dragon. At the same time, Xiao Ye, ever loyal, synchronizes her movements, her massive claws glowing with dragon energy as she follows through with 2 devastating strikes of her own. Xiao Ye then activates Cataclysm, the signature attack of the Dragon of Destruction. As she moves across the battlefield, the ground detonates beneath her, erupting in fiery explosions. Everything in her path is engulfed in flames, the catastrophic force causing massive damage and leaving a burn effect that reduces the area to a smoldering ruin. It's the kind of destruction that could make even a volcano feel inadequate. Watching this spectacular display of power, Lu Changkong can't contain his amazement. He blurts out in disbelief, wondering what kind of skill Lu Fan has just used. Is this some kind of forbidden dragon magic? Because let's face it, it sure looks like the kind of move that comes with a "don't try this at home" warning. Captain Lu Fei, not one to miss a beat, smirks as he watches the battlefield light up in flames. He responds coolly, explaining that what they're witnessing is simply a fight between a dragon rider and his dragon. For Lu Fan, killing a 1,000-year-old ferocious beast is no more difficult than cutting grass. Because when you've got a dragon on your side, even the most terrifying monsters are just part of your daily chore list. Lai Lu's condition worsens quickly, and even his horse can no longer bear the weight of the battle's toll, collapsing beneath him. As he falls to the ground, Lu Fan, recognizing the conflict in his heart, after all, this was once Shen Kai's beloved fiancé, now turned demon, moves quickly to catch him. Lai Lu hits the ground hard, but before he can slip further into darkness, Shen Kai runs to him, lifting him into her arms with desperation, her eyes filled with both love and grief. Meanwhile, Xiao Ye, still in her fearsome form, transforms back. Lu Fan, ever the protector, asks Shen Kai if she's okay, though his focus remains on Lai Lu, who appears as if his very soul is slipping away. His once strong, fierce presence now looks fragile and fading, a shadow of who he once was. Lu Changkong, standing nearby, suggests that they should tie Lai Lu up with chains to ensure he can't escape. Because nothing says "I care" like suggesting to chain up your ex-fiancé, right? But Lu Fan, always understanding of Shen Kai's emotions, quickly dismisses the idea. He knows the bond between Shen Kai and Lai Lu runs deeper than just survival, and tying him up like a prisoner wouldn't sit well with her. He tells Lu Changkong there's no need for it. Besides, with Lu Fan around, there's no chance of escape anyway. Shen Kai, still holding Lai Lu, starts to cry uncontrollably. She whispers to him, her voice trembling, recognizing him as the man she once loved. Lai Lu, it's really you, isn't it? She sobs, recounting how gentle and good he once was, and how everything changed because of this terrible curse. Suddenly, a strange purple aura begins to form around Lai Lu, its ominous glow growing stronger by the second. The group is stunned, watching in disbelief as more of this dark energy seeps out of his body. Lu Fan's instincts kick in and he realizes what's happening. This is the energy of the fallen corpse. Just as the energy pours out, Lai Lu momentarily regains consciousness. He weakly tells them to leave this place, repeating his plea urgently. Shen Kai, holding on to hope, pleads with him to stay strong, assuring him that he will be fine. Tears stream from both their eyes, their moment of reunion bitter and fleeting. Lai Lu, his voice broken, warns them of more dangers to come. He speaks of more fallen corpses and ruins, urging them to prevent further destruction. But as he speaks, his strength gives out. His hand, once clutching Shen Kai's tightly, slips from her grasp, and his body falls lifeless to the ground. The confirmation of his death hits hard, sending shockwaves of grief through Shen Kai. She screams, her heart breaking as she cradles his body, sobbing uncontrollably. It's the kind of heartbreak that shatters even the strongest warrior. Shen Kai clings to Lai Lu, crying that even though it was brief for those few seconds, she had her Lai Lu back. But like all tragic love stories, it's the cruelest endings that cut the deepest. And that was it for today. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button as today's like goal is 1,500 likes. Comment down below for the next part. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.